So Dory, tell us about Prey, because not a new game, but something you played for the first time. So tell us
Yeah,
about it.
I've been wanting to play Prey for a little while now. Been thinking about it off and on. It's been on my Game Pass library for a bit. Done by Arcane, which I have a mixed history with. I tried playing one of their earlier games. What is it? What is it
Dishonored.
called? Dishonored. Yeah, I thought it was Dishonored. And I couldn't really get into the mix of stealth and action. It didn't vibe with me very well. So I gave up on it after a couple hours. I gave it a good chance. And then I recently tried Deathloop, and my computer just wouldn't boot it up after the first session. I had a decent time with it, mostly being stealth, which is what I generally prefer in these types of games. But the first couple hours of Prey kicked my ass because I did not know what kind of game I was playing. I thought I was supposed to be all pew 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 and run at enemies and shoot them and stuff. And that's how you get your ass kicked in this game. Even late in the game, I mean, I'm talking even 10 hours into this game, because it's about a 20-hour game, you can still easily get your ass kicked by regular enemies if you're not careful. Which sounds like a bad thing, but I mean, I think it kept things pretty tense overall. My favorite thing about the game by far was the aesthetic. I'm a big sucker for like retro futuristic stuff, alternative timelines. I mean, this is technically in the future, but it's very kind of like retro aesthetic plus being in the future. It was a really good time overall. I think it had some problems with direction and pacing were my two biggest issues. The game's about 20 hours if you want to do most of the side missions and the main missions, which I think is too long. I think 10 to 12 hours would have been fine. And some of the side missions just felt a little too long and a little too fluffy, too much like fluff or filler. The combat is also a little tough to control, even with a controller. You kind of like move really fast. And there's the enemies, like I said, are really tough. So if you're not ready for that, I almost gave up on the game, but I discovered, okay, I can hack these turrets. I can run and hide. I can save scum. I definitely save scum quite a bit throughout the game because if you don't save scum, I don't know, you just get your shit wrecked in a lot. I would say, especially late game, the game gets a bit frustrating because there's a couple of levels towards the end, especially where enemies just keep coming and coming and coming and coming. And the game doesn't really telegraph that that's the case. It doesn't tell you that, hey, there's no end to these enemies. So I did spend like about 20 minutes fighting in a room, depleted most of my resources, and then had to spend most of the later game running away from enemies because I just couldn't fight them anymore. And again, I could have saved scum, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to roll with it. Let's see what happens. Ended up being incredibly frustrating. So I did end up save scumming here and there and get more equipment back. But yeah, I mean, it was a very roller coastery game for me. I still think the plot was really good. And a lot of the ideas was really good. I mean, it's not super, original. Big corporation tries to fuck around. Big corporation finds out. I mean, the whole universe has to pay in spades. There's some moral choices in there that I thought were cool. So I appreciated that. Yeah, I think between the 15 to 20 hour mark, you can treat this like a first action. An FPS like Doom and stuff, but I think you'll still probably get your ass handed to you more than you want. You're just a normal ass person who just happens to have really powerful equipment. You're not the Doomslayer. You're not, Leon Kennedy. You're not some big action star. You're just a person who happens to be loaded with equipment. So I think that's cool. It took me a while to adjust, but I had a really good time with it overall. It's the first Arcane game I've really enjoyed. And it's not perfect. Like I said, pacing was an issue. Combat was an issue. I think for me, it was like a 4 out of 5. And once I was done with it, it was like, hey, you can do all these other things. And I'm like, that's cool. I'm out of here, but thanks. But that's a pretty typical response from me. I don't usually do post-game stuff unless something really grabs me, which we'll talk about later in the pod. But I enjoyed myself.
Is pretty good. Are you going to play Moon Crash?
That's right. I have to do that at some point. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, I do definitely want to play Moon Crash. Or is it Moonwalker? I don't remember. But
I think I'm pretty sure it's Moon Crash.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Maybe I'm thinking about something else. But yeah, I'll definitely play
Michael
that.
Jackson.
That's right. I was confusing. Of course, the notable Michael Jackson Prey DLC. But yeah,
sounds
I'm
pretty
definitely gonna
cool.
pick up that DLC. I don't know if it's extra on Game Pass, but I'll look into it.
I mean, if you played it on Game Pass, it probably would be extra, but I
Why
hope
isn't it
it's not.
standalone?
No, it's. I mean, it probably is standalone, but I'm not sure if it's included in Game Pass.
I'll do research. Keep talking.
Yeah. James, be our research man.
Arcane, their games don't click with me as much as other people. I didn't really care for Deathloop as much as the critics. The critics said it was like a 10 out of 10. I thought it was like a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. And I did not like Dishonored because I'm not really a stealth person. I rather just run in and shoot. So I just don't like being forced into stealth, and then I don't like being punished for it, for killing people in a game.
Yeah.
So I didn't like Prey that much. I much prefer the original, but I mean it wasn't a bad game or anything. I just didn't care.
Yeah,
for it.
That's totally fair. I mean, I think this is definitely a game I would not die on the hill of. It's solid. It was a pretty, especially towards the end of the game, I got incredibly frustrated because the game was not giving you a good sense of direction of where to go in levels. Endless enemy respawns meant your supplies were completely low. It just felt like big artificial difficulty that I did not appreciate. I had to look up a guide, and even when I looked up a guide, and I mean, granted, we've talked before on the pod about me being spatially deficient, but even with a guide, I still struggled to find where the hell I was supposed to go. Like I looked up video guides and text guides. The levels are just overly complicated at certain points. I will say, by the way, since you mentioned the original game, Prey 2005, which this game has nothing to do with, by the way, they hated that Bethesda made them call this game Prey. I don't know if y'all read any of the news articles, but the director literally quit the studio once Prey came out because he was like, I hated that because we didn't want to upset the original fans of Prey, and we didn't want to make new people feel like, oh, you had to play the original game to play this. So it just if you look at the sales for this game, it was terrible. It not terrible, but it underperformed by a lot. I don't want to say it was terrible, but it hurt it a lot that Bethesda made them use the Prey angle. It has nothing to do with the original game. There's really, I mean, people call it spiritual successor, but as far as I can tell, and I didn't play the original game, but it has nothing to do with the original Prey in 2005.
I believe it's a reboot.
Yeah,
it's a reboot.
Reboot, spiritual. I mean, not really a spiritual successor because it's completely different. I remember, like, as a kid, seeing like the trailers and gameplay for Prey 2 that was cancelled and kind of fell through, and just thinking, "Holy shit, this is like the coolest looking thing ever." It's like it I mean, it was similar to like Star Wars 1313, if anyone ever remembers that. But it's like you're a bounty hunter cowboy in like a dirty, grungy space sort of system, and
that's why
you're just kind of surviving and doing a bunch of like quests and stuff, and it sounded like the coolest game ever. And there's a bunch of other details that like they shared after the game's cancellation, like what the game would be about. And I'm really bummed that we never got Prey 2, but like at the same time, I feel like it was kind of it sounded like it was ahead of its time in the sense that it's like this would be a really great game to be on PS4 or PS5, but maybe not PS3 and 360. But yeah, I think
to be the bearer of bad news, Mooncrash is not on Game Pass.
I also just discovered that by looking on Game Pass. I don't see Mooncrash anywhere. That's unfortunate. I might watch a gameplay video or something.
That's typically the case with Game Pass. They don't usually put DLC on Game Pass.
Vampire Survivor has the DLC, so that's strange.
Typically, they want you to. That's how they make their money a little bit more money.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, if you don't like simulator games, this might not be for you. If you don't like arcane games, maybe it'll be for you. I don't know. But I had a good time with it. I thought the guns were fun. The enemies were fun. That's the other thing. One last thing I want to mention is enemy variety. Not a lot of enemy variety in this game. It's generally the same 3 enemies over and over again until you die. There's a couple of variations, but it's either like, hey, this enemy's on fire, or hey, this enemy's electrified. And it wouldn't be much besides that. I did also really like the skill tree stuff. I thought that was really cool. And I think
What
the
I
twist,
really like,
the twist at the end is fun.
what I really like in games is when they create opportunities for merchandise you can make at home. So you can have like Prey. If you're a Prey fan, you can just buy a pack of post-it notes and write "not a mimic" on stuff instead of sticking it
That's
all
right.
over your house.
There is a lot of really good notes and stuff. Oh, there was a cute like TTRPG that they like did a parody of Dungeons and Dragons. I thought that was really cute. I'm a big sucker for that. And then there was like a lesbian storyline within that, which I thought was great. So that was like good representation. The whole game's good representation too, since a lot of the characters are Asian and people of color and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool too. But Arcane's generally been pretty good about that since like Dishonored 2, which I believe has a black woman as their main character, and then obviously
No, that's Death of the Outsider.
That's the DLC.
Oh, that's the DLC.
Yeah.
I apologize. I'm not up on my Dishonored lore.
Standalone DLC.
Standalone DLC, but still cool. But and then obviously Deathloop, their most recent game.
Yeah.
Yes.
I honestly, I'm surprised, but also really happy that you got into Prey, because I found the game. I've tried to get into the game about like 3 or 4 separate times, and like the furthest I've made it through is like my latest playthrough, which is I think I got about 10 hours in.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of lost interest once I hit, one of the many difficulty spikes, and kind of lost out on a lot of my resources, and I'm like, yeah, I'm screwed. And I have this weird thing where like I don't save scum too much. It's less so, because I have some, stubborn idea of, I have to do it the real way. It's just purely because I don't know. I just don't like seeing all those save files just lining up one after the other. But yeah, like I think I definitely want to get back in and finish it on my own at some point. I don't know when that will be, but I hope it'll be soon.
I think it's a good game, but I don't blame you for getting stuck on it, and the save scum thing too is something I struggled with at the beginning, but once I just embraced, look, you lose life really fast in this game, even at full health. Like the enemies take you down really fast. So I just embraced it personally, but I totally get like being reticent about it because I don't enjoy save scumming, but it's just kind of a necessary evil in a game like this.
100%. Oh god, I feel like there's a game that I've been playing recently that I've had to do that in, but okay. I thought I was playing on the PS3, but maybe not. But yeah, it's sort of one of those things where it's like, look, I'll probably have to do it if I wanted to reattempt Prey. Hopefully I, won't make myself sit through that first 10 hours again just to kind of, catch up on the story and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know. Like I definitely remember thinking like, because I love the BioShock games and they're very similar to this, especially, in terms of difficulty, because for some reason my dumbass said, hey, let's play BioShock on its hard difficulty to start out with. So I was constantly dying and constantly running out of resources, and just like my first playthrough of BioShock was not a good time. I did not enjoy myself at all. And then I replayed it on New Game Plus, and then I'm like, okay, I'm having a much better time here because I actually feel powerful and not, dying every 10 minutes.
I was playing on normal. I was still getting my ass kicked those first 2 hours. That's what was so frustrating for me. Is like I was like, damn, like I've been playing video games for freaking 20 years of my life. Like I'm not that bad at video games at this point. It's just how you're supposed to play the game early. I'd say the first 5 hours or so is at least partially a stealth game, and then after that you can start coming out of your shell, so to speak.
100%, yeah.
All right, so let's officially start. So, we're on episode 8. I am your host, Sebastian. I am once again joined by James, Dory, and Mitch. Today we're going to talk about Seasons A Letter to the Future. We're going to talk about Hi-Fi Rush, and we're going to talk about the Dead Space remake. So, let me just say, like, 2023 has already started off with bangers. Like, it's been a fantastic year so far. And we're just getting started because, you know, next week is Hogwarts Legacy, and then later on is Atomic Heart and PSVR, and Octopath Traveler 2, and so on and so forth. So, this year is just crazy already. So, let's start first with the Xbox Showcase that was a couple weeks ago. Or maybe it was last week. I don't even remember. I think it was a couple weeks ago. We don't care about most of the games shown there. None of us are Elder Scroll Online fans or Minecraft fans, really.
Nope.
So the main thing I want to talk about is Redfall, which is also made by Arcane. So it kind of ties together with Dory's topic on Prey, and it reminds me of a typical Arcane game because once again you can tackle a level in any way you want. It's very similar to Deathloop and Dishonored. So what did you guys think of Redfall overall from what you saw?
I'm right off the bat. I'm gonna come out with. I'm gonna pull a James. I'm gonna be a contradictorian. That's a word, right?
Is that am I known for that?
A contrarian.
Contrarian. That's it. Contradictorian. What the fuck where did I get that from?
A valedictorian and being contrary.
So, because like. I watched the gameplay and I watched a bunch of like people's reactions to the gameplay like after the fact, and you know they're talking about like how in the gameplay, oh, you can attack a level in any way you want, and like you can attack it stealthily or you can attack it guns blazing. It's like that's not the Arcane way of approaching it in any way. Like in Arcane games, you know, they're like variety and their way of tackling objectives in a different manner. It's very similar to, at least classically, it's very similar to the Hitman games, and it's like, okay, if you want to take out this target, you can maybe disguise yourself and like get into his inner sanctum, or you can just fully stealth the whole way, or you can just go guns blazing, or you know, you can solve this elaborate puzzle to unlock the secret corridor to gain access to this area, and you know, like there's so many different ways that you can tackle an objective. Whereas that makes it distinctly Arcane. Whereas what they seem to be showing here was just that, oh, you can go in stealthily or you can go in guns blazing. And like maybe you might be able to choose a different entrance. Like that's the exact same as like a lot of regular open world games nowadays. Like Far Cry is the biggest thing that comes to mind. Like, aside from maybe the art style, which is, you know, significantly toned down from the Dishonored games and Prey even, there's nothing in this gameplay that I've seen that feels distinctly Arcane to me. Like in the past, you know, then the games aren't really known for their first-person shooting mechanics. Like, I mean, you know, like, they've gotten better over time, of course, but it's like people don't play Arcane games typically for the first person shooting. They play it for the variety and like, you know, the different ways, like the actual different ways to tackle an objective, or you know, like all this stuff. Nothing I've seen from that gameplay is like shouted, hey, this, you know, like this makes me want to go out and buy an Xbox, you know, or this is like an experience I can only get on Xbox and therefore I should buy one. Like I just looked at the gameplay, it's like, hey, I want to, you know, boot up Far Cry maybe because it reminds me of that.
Yeah, like I've always had mixed feelings about this game. Like it looks a lot of fun for all of us to play together. It reminds me a lot of like Back 4 Blood, where I'm not blown away, and it's not like it's not a game that would make me want to rush and buy an Xbox.
Yeah.
Or subscribe to Game Pass, which I already have, so it's not a big deal. But, but it's like it just looks like it's like a stupid fun game. That's really all it is, and it's kind of game that it's good for Game Pass though, because it's good to have games like that in your catalog. You don't not every game needs to be you know, Starfield, or for example, that's their marquee game really more than anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, this game's getting a lot of hype, but I think this game's getting a lot of hype because it's been very dry for Xbox for the last year and a half.
Yeah.
So
And it like it sucks kind of like saying that that's the case because like obviously that can easily lead into console war bullshit. But it's like I do think the game looked like if I had a next gen Xbox and if I had Game Pass, I would 100% play Redfall. But seeing as I currently don't have a next gen Xbox, I'm not in any rush to go out and get one for this game, if that makes sense. Like, there's another game later on that I absolutely want to go out and buy an Xbox for, but the game isn't Redfall at this stage.
yeah,
Which is a
I
shame.
understand.
I mean, I think it's a great thing that it's a Game Pass game. This is a
Yes.
game that we're all probably going to play together once or twice, maybe 3 times, and then we'll be like, "Cool, that was fun," and then that'll be that.
Yeah.
I didn't think much of it. Was surprised to see Rob from Draft Punks making an appearance as Rook, one of the bosses. No one's going to get that reference except like maybe 1 or 2 people. Yeah, I mean, it looked like a fun trailer, but I mean, I don't know. I just can't really get enthused about the game. But I mean, I'm excited. I already have it downloaded Game Pass, so I would be happy to be proven wrong once I get that controller in my hands and start playing.
I'm surprised Xbox allows that level of preloading. Like, I mean, like not even like in the sense that it's like, oh, people could jailbreak their Xboxes and get early access because that's not going to happen. But like, why? It like, is it a way to build up hype, or I'm just interested as to why Microsoft do that. But I'm like I do think it's cool that you can preload things.
I guess it's probably a way
over
of
3 months
kind
in
of,
advance.
It's probably a way of just kind of getting people in as early as possible, so that when the game comes out, they can kind of ping them a notification and remind them that, hey, this is coming out. You were going to play this.
Yeah,
remember?
that's true. Probably it. Yeah.
I just thought the animation was a bit clunky. Like the guns didn't feel like they had a lot of power in them. It was just very. It just doesn't feel like the highest of quality. Like, it's not bad by any means. It just feels like a step down from better quality shooters that I've seen in the past.
It feels very like arcane level quality, which, like, again, not bad, but like not like, oh, let's dedicate an entire game to our first person shooter mechanics.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not like negative on this game. I'm mostly positive. It's just I'm just not like hyped for it. I think this is a nice game for Game Pass. That's
I mean, I'm more lukewarm on it, but that's also because I just don't have an Xbox to play. Like, I can guarantee you, if I did have that, I would be downloading it and I'd be trying to play it day one. But like, I think because I have that detachment from the console space, I'm like, you know.
I mean, I'm objective. Even Phil himself said Xbox has been lacking games. So, but so far Xbox has had a great start because they did shadow drop an awesome game, a total banger that came totally out of nowhere, and that's the game Mitch wants to get a Series S or an X for, which is Hi-Fi Rush, and we're gonna talk about that now. The Hi-Fi Rush is just an absolutely fantastic game. It reminds me of the PS2 days with those kind of platforming cell shaded games. This is probably the prettiest cell shading game I've ever seen in my life. It's so gorgeous.
This could be an A rank animated series on television. I wouldn't even be surprised if you told me this was airing right now on like fucking Cartoon Network or something, or HBO Max, and it was like, this is top level cell shaded animation.
I think it's the best I've ever seen. Like,
I struggle to think of anything that's better. The only thing that even remotely comes to mind is some of the cell shaded Dragon Ball Z games that got a ton of money put into them, but even those were like years ago. So I mean, this even beats that out.
It reminds me of these like Canadian TV shows we used to get all the time, as in like Aussie like TV channel networks. Like, we barely had any like original Australian TV or like animated content. It was all from the Canadians for some reason. Not America, just Canada.
We had a couple of those, but not. But we mostly had our own.
Yeah,
stuff.
like we had like Totally Spies. We had Totally Spies. I don't know if you got that.
Yeah. And Johnny Test.
Johnny Test. Yeah.
Yeah, we got these like a bunch of these really obscure Canadian cartoons, but like the main reason I say that is because like the main character Chai, Chai, in the game, he sounds exactly like one of the like main voice actors they used in all of those shows.
Yep.
Like all those shows, the main character had the exact same voice actor, and he sounds exactly like that in this game.
It's
actually,
a goofy.
Hold on.
It's a goofy
like, white
in
guy.
In a good way. Yeah. It's a goofy white guy protagonist who's clueless and accidentally kind of like maybe accidentally or not accidentally kind of selfish at the beginning, and then eventually learns the power of friendship throughout the course. It's a tale as old as time, and I'm not saying that in a bad thing. I think it's great.
Yeah, it is very anime.
Yes.
It's Robbie Diamond. Okay.
The aesthetic reminds me a lot of.
I thought it was Yuri. I honestly thought it was Yuri Lowenthal a little bit. He reminded me of his Peter Parker performance.
They both played Spider-Man at some point or another, so it makes sense.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, granted, he played him in like the shitty Disney cartoon, like the latest one. But
yeah, I mean,
it was good.
It is. I guess it is generic in the sense that like it's typical big evil corporation. A bunch of rebels fighting back. Trying to stop them from doing something, taking over the world. Typical protagonist that's clueless, but it does a heart of gold. And he has kind of a love interest who like at first finds him really annoying, and then later on starts opening up. It's a typical story, but that's not. I'm not one of those people that like believes that you have to have innovation to be good. Like sometimes being you don't always have to be original to be good. Like I
mean, one of them is literally just a carbon cutout of Barrett from Final Fantasy VII.
What's his name? Macaron.
He's awesome. I love him.
Barrett,
he's basically just Barrett from Final Fantasy
He's like VII. Soft. He's like a softer, cuddly, more nicer
Barrett, but British.
Yeah.
Barrett, but British.
Yeah, everybody in this, the whole cast was like not American. I think Chai was American, but most of the cast is like a British or an Australian or different accents.
Yeah, I forget her name, but you meet her later, and she becomes a part of your team. But she is Irish or Scottish. I think she's supposed to be Irish because the voice actress herself is part Irish.
Okay, then she's probably Irish then.
Yeah, so I was confused too. It's like it sounds like a weird Irish accent.
Yeah, it's like a mix of Scottish and Irish.
Yeah, she's American, but she's part Irish, so she's using an Irish accent, but she is herself part Irish. Not that I really care. I just thought it was interesting.
I wish I could tell you, but I don't think I'm that far in the game yet.
That's all right. You meet her later on. I mean, I love this game a lot. I think my biggest issue with it is just that sometimes the game's a little overly perfectionist about certain things. Seb and I were talking about the parry combos and stuff like that.
I mean, before we get into that, let's just like establish what kind of game it is. It is a rhythm game. But it is very forgiving for mostly. Most
of the time.
Like you don't have to be perfect in your combos at all.
Yes.
Like I played plenty of rhythm games where like if you screw up one time, like it totally punishes you.
Yeah.
Like Parappa the Rapper, for example.
Yeah.
And this game is mostly forgiving. The problem is the parry system where there's mini games in the boss battles too. And you don't have to be perfect, but like if you screw it up, it makes you repeat it. And if you don't get the timing right, you basically die and you have to do the whole boss battle over again. And sometimes I've gotten stuck where the funny thing is the hardest part I had was like when you're in the security system and the robots shoot at you, like the security bots, and you have to parry them. I just could not get the timing right, and I'm generally decent at I'm like. Parrying's never been my strength in gaming. I usually like to dodge instead. Like that's why I didn't like Sekiro as much as other people, because I'm not good at parrying. And this game forces you to parry in this one section, and if you die, you have to fight the whole battle over again. I just got so annoyed with that. But even then, it was only like 15-20 minutes, not like
this is a pretty minor complaint, but it was something consistent throughout. You would have other parts too where you would try to open something out and you would have to time it to like you'd have to press X, Y, A, X, Y. And if you messed up even once, it completely started you over. And it's like it's not like you lost hours of anything. You lost maybe a minute at most.
Yeah.
But over and over again, it's like, you know, it's just a little annoying. But again, this isn't like a huge deal. I think this game is phenomenal in general. I'm a bassist, or I've been playing bass off and on for about 10 years. So it's super fun to hear just the bass riffs in the background and trying to mix with the beat. I mean, honestly, most of the time I had between 50 and 60% on beat at the end of every stage, because it's a fairly linear game. But even then, because my clear times were so fast and because my score was so fast or so high, I almost always got A ranks or B ranks anyway, even though my on beat scores were like D's and C's.
Yeah, I always got A rank, but I always got like C's and D's in the timing.
Exactly.
Because you got to be like perfect to get S.
There are ways to mitigate that. There is a little beat thing that you can, if you press the select button, basically on your controller, or I don't know what it is on the keyboard, but you can basically have a beat counter at the bottom middle of your screen, and then there's also an audio setting, an accessibility setting, that you can calibrate your own controller to make sure that you're doing on the beat. So I did the first thing, not the second. So maybe that would have helped.
Yeah, on the controller, it's the. Did you use an Xbox controller?
Yeah, well, I used my PS5 as an Xbox controller. So.
Oh, okay, yeah, on the Xbox controller, it's just the middle button on the left.
Yeah.
I didn't use that. I didn't use that though. In fact, that made me that always ruined my timing.
Okay.
But I have really good rhythm, so I didn't have that problem. I didn't really need it.
Yeah.
So looking at it and fighting at the same time threw me off completely. So once I took it off.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
But,
I typically couldn't look at it and fight at the same time. It was just nice to have there, just to know what the beat was, and then to keep it in mind for later.
I love the soundtrack of this game.
Yes.
I mean, the beginning starts with Black Keys, which I like, and then one of the boss battles had 9 Inch Nails, which was really cool.
So the first boss fight is currently my gaming moment of the year. You get to fight the first boss to a 9 Inch Nails song, not even like a well-known song by them, kind of a deep cut that I never hear anybody talking about, and it perfectly fits the boss, and it perfectly fits it, and I was living. I was like, this is a 5 out of 5 moment. Like, the game spent the rest of its time chasing that high for me, because I never, except for maybe the final boss fight, never got close to that high again.
Yeah,
but
like
it was super good.
Not that I'm complaining, but like a lot of the soundtrack was original and it was good.
Yeah,
but they didn't do a lot of like real band songs in that game. Like,
I thought there would be more. I thought
the
real bands they did source from, I had almost never heard of, except for like Black Keys and 9 Inch Nails, which is awesome that they got them. So I mean, like, I'm not complaining. And the original stuff is really good too. Like, I know watching an IGN review, they said one of the later tracks gave them some Persona vibes, with like a bit of a jazzy, big orchestral stuff, and I could definitely see that.
Yeah, I mean, this game definitely has Persona 5 vibes, especially like when you're hanging out with the crew and you go on like missions, and even there's one section where like when you invade the blonde lady who like you go
Mimosa.
You go to like a museum or something.
Yeah, that was cool.
And you're in the rafters, and it reminded me of the first 10 minutes of Persona 5, like when you're. It looked exactly like it. I was like, "There's no way this is not inspired by Persona 5." It was like almost the same thing. Not that I'm complaining, but it definitely had Persona 5 vibes. And I really like. I love the aesthetic. Like I said, it has like a Mega Man aesthetic where everybody's like, it's in the future and there's a lot of robots around. And I love a lot of the workers are like surfer guys. They have like a surfer California accent guy, like especially the guy you help fix up. You remember the one level where you have to like connect the dots, not the dots, like the lasers to each other. And you help this. You know what I'm talking about, Dory?
Yeah.
You
have to connect all the lasers together and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then I just like the guy's accent. All the workers had like this California surfer guy accent.
It was so funny. One of them has a Scottish accent, I'm pretty sure, and he was like the best robot. He was always very nice, very hardworking, but a very nice robot. And whenever I saw him, I was happy. I will say one of the things I really like. I'm gonna go on like a small like political thing about this game. One thing I like, one thing I don't like. One thing I like is that the game really sets up this corporation and just eviscerates modern workplace culture, which you all know what I think about that. And one thing in particular I really liked is that they had a little data log that you can read because there's all these data logs. And there's one about mindfulness. And this is something that corporations do, of course, to pretend like you're not getting exploited or whatever. And it's like, I don't remember exactly what the data log reads, but it's something like, if you think about all this stuff, you'll realize you're the problem, not us. So you just need to think your problems away and get back to work. And I was like, that's exactly how the fuck it works. I will say one thing I don't like about this game, and it doesn't affect, for me, it wouldn't affect the score. It's just a philosophical disagreement. It's not a big deal, but I just wanted to comment on it briefly. I do think it's a bit of a bummer that the game is, not that I'm expecting it to be some kind of revolutionary manifesto on capitalism, because obviously not. But I was a little disappointed with the ending of the game and kind of the idea that if we just put the right people in charge of huge corporations, then we'll solve global warming or something like that. I thought that was a little politically naive and frustrating, but again, if I was reviewing this, would not affect my score. Just something that bothered me. But I think the criticisms of corporate culture and workplace culture it makes is excellent. It does some like real big deep cuts that I don't think I've ever seen other games do, even contemporary games do. Just a really fun game with a good message. The characters kick ass, the animation kicks ass, the gameplay is great. This is just what a win for Game Pass people and for Xbox people in general. This is a great game that I really, really recommend.
Yeah, this is the kind of game why Microsoft bought Bethesda. I mean, this game would have been on PlayStation, but now that they own Bethesda and Tango DreamWorks, now it's exclusive. That's a good get for Microsoft. But
right, that's another thing is Tango DreamWorks made that. The same people behind The Evil Within, right? And Tokyo Ghostwire.
Ghostwire Tokyo, yeah.
Ghostwire Tokyo, yeah. The other way around. But still, very spooky people doing a completely not spooky game.
Not only that, but Shinji Mikami is the producer.
Shinji Mikami is doing this. I just thought it was wild.
I mean, Shinji Mikami's the head or like the like CEO or whoever of Tango Gameworks, so it totally makes sense. But like I remember laughing out loud in the trailer where it's like from the people who brought you Evil Within, and then just underneath they had like in brackets seriously.
I know. I know that was funny too.
And I'm just
the
like,
whole
yeah,
game is funny. Well, the whole game is funny. Like, I think somebody needs to do, not me, but somebody needs to do a video essay on why this game is so successful at being funny. And another recent game that was released that I will not name is notably not quite as funny as it wants to be. I
actually did see. I mean, it was a TikTok, so it wasn't like a full blown essay on it. But I think what they mentioned is that, like, in Hi-Fi Rush, like, that dialogue and that tone is very much, like, part of the world, and, like, it, like, yes. You know, like, everything is
totally
like,
consistent.
That same tempo.
It feels in place.
Yeah.
And we're given like, good reason for why Chai is the way he is and why all the characters are... And he's got people to bounce off of who are, like, his foil, like, thematically.
And I haven't played... either of the games, especially Forspoken, spoiler alert, but I think, like, and, like, I know Forspoken is basically an isekai where, you know, like, protagonists taken from contemporary New York put into generic fantasy world number 5,000 and 1,300, but basically, like, it, you know, apparently, like, there doesn't seem to be a point where it's like, oh, yeah, you know, like, I forget what they said, but it's like, you know, like, there's no, like, there's this sense of amazement and stuff, but it's like, you know, Frey's just, like, sort of being the Grinch about it the whole time, and, you know, it's just, like, sort of like, oh, I'll drag myself along to this or whatever. It's like, fuck you, fuck you, and,
I mean,
you know, all that stuff.
I do think people have a personal bias against that game. Like, my timeline's been pretty positive about it. Like, the critics hate it, or they find it mediocre, and... But people who have played it actually find it fun. I do think people have like this weird agenda about it, because the dialogue was terrible, but the rest of the game was fun. I wouldn't care if the dialogue was terrible. So,
and they even have sliders and stuff like that. Yeah, I wish Forspoken was better because I would love to play it, and I think it's awesome to have more black leads in games and stuff like that. But the game just doesn't.
That some of the shit people mention about are just not. Like, silly to me. Like it's
there are people who
a lot
are
of things are out of context.
This is like the this is like the in a certain way, not in the exact way, but in a certain way, this is kind of like your Ocean's 8 or your Ghostbusters remake or whatever litmus test, where it's like there are certain people who are complaining about this in the right way, and there are certain people complaining about this in the very wrong way, where you just tell them to shut the fuck up and ignore them. And then obviously there are going to be people in between who actually enjoy it, which I think is great.
I mean, I'll definitely play it. I mean, I enjoyed Strangers of Paradise, and that was like that was a 6.5 out of 10.
Goofy as fuck. I mean, they had Limp Bizkit.
But that game was so fun, but the story was stupid and the dialogue was stupid. It was just but it didn't matter because it was fun. I'll play Forspoken. I mean,
we were just talking about Evil West, a game that I think has a very dumb story and dumb dialogue, but the gameplay's fun as hell, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
exactly.
But it also wasn't $70.
Yeah,
I remember, like, I mean, we spoke about like the demo way back when that came out, and it's like I just could not get into it for the life of me. And like from what I've heard, some of my criticisms were kind of fixed, like the later you progress into the game and like, you know, the more spells and stuff you get. But it's like I still think that like when I think of, you know, like being not a wizard, but like, you know, being someone who can cast magic and stuff, like, and you have all these cool abilities and stuff, I don't think of like one-time use abilities that are on a cooldown constantly. And yeah, I mean, like I remember starting there and I was like, okay, I could get into this. This is like, you know, it reminds me of Infamous. You know, I've been looking for a new like Infamous type game where you can like sprint around and do stuff. So hey, this could be it.
Yeah.
But wasn't it.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's gonna. When I play it, it's not gonna be some incredible game. I just think it's supposed to be super fun. But back to Hi-Fi Rush. But my biggest problem with that game, even though I really love it, is that it's just very linear and it's very like it's repetitive, very repetitive. You do the same thing every level. You jump on platforming and you fight. Jump on platforms, fight. It's a typical platformer. But every level is very linear. The platforming is not great. It's not like
it's
horrible.
Just okay.
It's okay. Yeah. There's some sections where it's like whatever. So that's why to me it's like a 9 out of 10 because I think the platforming is not great and it's very repetitive. It's something I like. I play for a couple hours and I put it down and then come back later. Because it's not something I can just play 8 hours straight because I feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over and over.
Once I was done with the game, I tried. So there is a post game, which I think is cool. You can get new costumes. There's a challenge mode similar to like the Blood Palace or whatever it's called in Devil May Cry. And there's also these doors that you can unlock. Unfortunately, this is where the linearity of the game really works against itself because there's no way to come into various parts of a stage. You have to start at the beginning of a stage. And it doesn't even tell you where these doors are. So I had to look up a guide. And then once I got to them, it's just like, it's one door, it's one challenge, and then you're done. And so it just feels like a waste of time. I don't know what it does when you get all of them because I haven't done it. I don't know that I will. But I will say the post game's there, and if you want to do it, I think it's good. But it's nice to have those. Like I think the customization is the best part. Look, I have I gave Chai like disco shirt or overshirt and some Converse sneakers, and I had Peppermint dress up as 808 and 808 dress up as Peppermint. So it was great. But yeah, this is a terrific game. I think the IGN review is really solid. If anybody wants to check that out, that I think really sums up my feelings because IGN also gave it a 9 out of 10. I completely agree with that.
The gameplay is really fun. Even if it's repetitive, it's super fun repetitive.
Yes.
Like, there's so many combos you can do. The timing, you don't have to be perfect, and just enough where you don't get punished for not being perfect. And
it does not say it's welcome. It's about a 10-hour game. I think that's great.
Yeah, about 10 to 12-hour game.
10 to 12. Yeah, it took me about 11 and a half.
Yeah, it was about 11 and a half, I want to say. And the cell shading incredible. The animation's really cool. I always love like where the character's frame rate's lesser than their environments. It has which makes it look cooler. It's very similar to those. Right, like that. It's also very similar to those Netflix anime shows because they make a lot of those now. You gonna say, James?
Yes, right. There's just the one thing I wanted to highlight was, like, there are some really clever design decisions, like the fact that no matter when you press the attack button, the attack will always land on the beat of the music. You just do more damage if you press the button on the beat. So, like, just that alone really makes it so much easier to stay on beat because you kind of get into that rhythm so much easier and instinctively press the button whenever one of your attacks lands. So even if you don't hit that first one on beat, it's really easy just to fall into the groove and kind of just feel the rhythm.
Not only that, but every time he just walks, he's always on beat. It's always on beat. Even when he's standing.
The environment's on the beat.
Yeah.
The creepy hint system is probably on the beat. Everything's on the beat.
Yeah. It's just really
there's a creepy like a fridge robot that really wants to get to know you and help you out and wants to be your friend. And I put friend around with scare quotes, emphasis on scare. And they're a very interesting character.
So apparently this game was inspired by that scene in Shaun of the Dead where they all smacked the zombie with the
yes
pool cue.
Bohemian Rhapsody was the song.
No, Don't Stop Me Now by Queen.
That's it. Yeah.
So that the whole game is inspired by that one scene, which is really cool. Because it's on beat. Because they totally credit Edgar Wright for that. Yeah, like I said, it's an amazing game. This is the kind of game Xbox needs. I think this is a big seller. I think this should be a franchise for
agreed.
Xbox. I think this would be a fantastic show on a streaming service. This should be a series. Because I'm not gonna say what happens in the end, but it opens up for you can do a lot with it. So this game is definitely. I would be shocked if this game does not get a sequel. Because now that it took 5 years to make, or technically 6 years because it's 2023, but they have the foundation now and they know it works, so it should be a lot easier to do a sequel this time. That's a quite.
What are you talking about? They only started working on it once they finished Ghostwire Tokyo. That's how it works in games development, right?
you gotta get the credit though. They're taking a gamble like that, going they're typically known for horror games, and they do something totally different.
Yeah.
I always respect the risk like that.
They really seem to put everything into it.
Absolutely,
and it shows on the quality.
Exactly. All right, we ready to move on to the next thing?
Yeah.
Right, hell yes.
All right.
Ooh, yeah. What actually is it?
So we
love that enthusiasm.
We got a PS5 ad, and so far Sony's doing this really cool marketing thing where in different countries in Europe they're doing these giant statues. I think the UK there's a giant Kratos axe.
Yeah.
It's
gone now. I'm pretty sure, but
yeah, and I think
he must have picked it up.
I forget. I forget where the other countries. I know one of them is in Central Europe, but
Mitch makes a good point actually. The existence of giant Kratos axe implies the existence of giant Kratos.
And
He's just walking around somewhere.
Yep.
So
just imagine sort of going about your day, then just hearing just a booming boy from the heavens.
I mean, technically that's true because in the God of War games he does get big. Like when he has the God of War powers.
Oh God, so
he actually gets that big.
Oh, true.
When he fights Ares, he gets that big as well.
Yeah.
Seb with the deep lore.
Yes.
I mean, I still need to play through the actual original 2 games on PS3 because I have a PS3 now and I can actually go back and play a lot of those games that I missed out on.
Yeah, by the collection they have God of War 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And Ghost of Sparta all of them really.
Well, it's 2 separate collections. They have the first
yeah.
collection with the first 2 games, and then they have collection volume.
Yeah.
Collection volume 2.
Yeah.
With
and those games are fantastic.
The PSP ones. Yeah.
I'm personally offended, Mitch, that you have a PS3 now and you haven't played Resistance yet.
Here we go.
Well, I
personally offended.
Honestly, I do want to play Resistance, but only the 3rd that I have any interest in because it's like, well, do I really want to, You know,
I don't think 1 and 2 is gonna.
Oh,
age
you
I
well
really
for
want to
you.
play
You need to
through
play-
1 and 2.
You
Yeah.
need to play through 1 and 2 for the story. It's
I
important.
mean, I'm
especially-
already
Just watch a YouTube video.
with
Oh
the
my
like.
God.
I've already
No,
watched videos on
no.
the actual story of it. Like, I know, you know, we have Captain Resistance, and he's going into World War 14
Captain
against
Resistance,
the
yep.
Chimeron threat,
Oh my
and
God.
they all descended from fish people,
Stop it.
But that's the.
and
Stop it.
and then in the sequel it ends with, hey, maybe the Resistance was all in us too, and
All
then
right.
cuts
That's
credits.
plenty, Mitch.
And
You
then
didn't
the
even-
main character
Oh my
character got shot in the head. But you know,
Yeah,
That's
the
about-
ending of
that's-
2 like just really, yeah, it pays off. Like you need to play through the game to get that. Like that last scene is just
Yeah, so that's the cool thing having a PS3 though is you can play literally every God of War game except obviously the newer ones.
except the new ones. Yeah, I mean, like I've already played 3 because you know they remastered
It's on
it,
PS4,
but-
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I still desperately need to play Ascension, and 1 and 2. As
Yeah,
well.
Ascension is the first one. The whole
Chronologically, yeah.
chronologically, yeah.
Well-
and you should play the side games, the PSP
Yeah.
ones, because even the God of War Ragnarok references them, like God.
Oh yeah, with
Kratos,
Deimos
yeah,
from-
Kratos' brother, which is played by Elijah Wood, I
Is-
believe.
Shit, really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I need to search that up.
I know he's plays. I could be wrong.
That'd be. I mean, like, I know Deep Cut. I know Elijah Wood played like what freaking Spyro the Dragon in one of the games they had in like the late 2000s. But what my God of War.
Oh, he played him in God of War 3. I know he played somebody. Anyway, the point is, play those games.
Yes,
It's the best PlayStation series in my opinion.
Mark Declan voiced Deimos.
Yeah, but Elijah Wood played him in another game. I'm looking at the wiki right
Oh.
now. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
weird. Okay, that's interesting.
Anyway,
Well, exactly like he was a low-profile actor. Then he was.
right. So,
So about that commercial.
so the PS5 had
Yeah.
the PS5 had they had the stock now, right? It's really easy
Yeah.
to get a PS5 now, and so Sony's going all in on marketing. They just had one of their best quarters ever, and financially, and so they did this cool marketing ad where like everything they're filming the characters in action, as if like it's actually happening in real time, like a broadcast.
yeah, like
And-
news reports
like a
on
news
the
reports.
ground, kind of.
Right, yeah. And there's one section which everybody's talking about, where like there's this girl, like in a tomb, and obviously it's got to be Uncharted, right? It's not Tomb Raider. And people are.
I don't know if it is Tomb Raider though.
It basically, I mean, Uncharted and Tomb Raider are very similar, especially since Tomb Raider goes
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
big cinematics now. But that's a whole other conversation too, because Tomb Raider is apparently doing a whole franchise, and
Yeah.
because they have a new company owns them now, Embracer owns them, and they want to make it like a MCU franchise. Anyway, that's
Didn't
another
they just sell the rights or something? I
Embracer.
don't know. Okay.
No, Square Enix sold their rights to Embracer, I believe.
Okay.
They want to make
Okay.
Tomb Raider a giant franchise. Anyway,
For some reason.
so there's a girl like finding treasure, and people are thinking it's Cassie. And I
For the
Yeah.
uninitiated,
so
that's Nathan Drake's daughter, right?
yeah, that's Nathan Drake's daughter.
Really?
I know there's been
Oh,
rumors that like someone's making a new Uncharted game, but it's not Naughty Dog. It's like a different dev under Sony. Naughty Dog's done with Uncharted, as they've said. So
Yeah.
I do believe it could be. I wouldn't surprise me if it was somebody like Ben Studio, because Ben Studio did a Golden Abyss. I mean, I don't know what they're working on right now.
Ben
Look,
Studio
I'm
needs
Okay,
just
hang on.
really glad
desperately.
that everybody's keeping themselves in shape, because if they weren't, they wouldn't be able to do reaches like this. Because this is, I think this is a silly reach that looking way too much into a
Maybe,
commercial.
yeah.
Now I could be totally wrong. Maybe they are working on a new one, but Naughty Dog has gone on record to say that they're done with it. Now, of course, they could be lying. That's the most obvious answer, right? That they're lying to prevent people from thinking that they're working on a new thing. But I don't know. They've been pretty open about, as we'll talk about in the future, in the near future. They've talked pretty openly about The Last of Us Part 3 and whether that's going to happen or not. So I don't really have any, at least recent reason to disbelieve Naughty Dog. I don't know if they have a history of lying about being done or not done with series, but I don't even think they have, like, I don't know, they have enough series to do that.
Well, I mean, because there's still, I mean, like as Seb just said, like there's other studios that could be working on it, like Bend, that already have a history with the Uncharted
right. No, it could be another studio.
At the end of the day,
I just
Sony
don't know if I care. If it's another studio, I don't know if I care.
At the end of the day, Sony owns the IP, like Naughty Dog. So if Sony wants to do an Uncharted game, it's happening. And will I play it?
I just don't.
Will I buy it?
I don't know if that's a good idea. It just seems like a bad idea.
Yeah.
I mean, and I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's like what, way back when, like a year ago or so, before they announced the like RE4 remake, like they had the Los Plagas or like whatever the cult's name, like they had their insignia just hidden in one of the trailers, and that was like months before they announced the RE4 remake. So like, I definitely don't think it's like, you know, it's not in character for Sony to tease upcoming projects in trailers and stuff like this, especially their live action.
Especially since we don't know shit what's coming up. Like we know Spider-Man's coming out this year, and that's about it. So we don't know what they're working on. And Wolverine, that's about it.
I remember like seeing that they were targeting M rating for Wolverine. I was like, yes, and then they said semi-open world. I'm like, no.
Apparently, it is M rated. It's very gory, from my understanding.
Which I'm hopeful for, because you
can't do Wolverine that's not rated M. Go ahead, James.
No. Regarding the Uncharted thing, what Dory said about it not being smart to have another studio make an Uncharted game, I don't think I mean, I agree. I don't think it is smart, but I'm also wary of the fact that I don't think Jim Sony has ever played a video game in his life. So he's just sitting there looking at spreadsheets of earnings and that's how he's deciding what games.
I told you guys that like 2 years ago that Jim Ryan's gonna be that guy that's an asshole everybody hates, but he's gonna make them a ton of money and they're gonna keep him around because
he's the Nick Khan of. I know this might go over y'all's head, but he's the Nick Khan of no that's Tony Khan. Nick Khan is the business manager of WWE, and he is similar. He's very similar. He makes a lot of business decisions, but not everybody is big on him because a lot of those business decisions lead to people getting let go, people getting cut during the pandemic. So yeah, he's exactly the same kind of guy.
Yeah. So,
but he's going to make them a ton of money. I mean, WWE has never seen higher profits, and Sony's seeing high profits, so it's the same thing.
My thing is, if you're going to do new Uncharted, I'd rather have a new character than Cassie. I don't think she has to be a treasure hunter because her dad was. I feel like that story's concluded. Yeah. I would rather just have a game like Lost Legacy with a different character. Because you can do unlimited stories because, you know, it's a big world. That, you know, not everybody needs to be connected to Nathan Drake. So...
I mean, frankly, I just would rather not have another Uncharted game.
Sure,
you know,
I'm not asking for it. I'm just
after Thief's End and after what was the one that was
Legacy.
Lost Legacy, especially, I was like, I'm done with this formula. I don't need it anymore.
But I do find it funny that we're like everybody's like, it's too soon for a new Uncharted game, and it's been like 7 years since the last.
I guess because I've played it in the last few years, it feels too soon. But I don't. That's not even my big concern. My big concern is, like James said, I just don't think another studio should be doing this. But you know, maybe they could do it well. I think it's the same. It's similar reasons why people are worried about the Silent Hill remake. I know that's slightly different, but it's a different studio taking on what Konami did originally.
I mean, I think. Another thing is that I think other like similar games and like, you know, the similar genre and space have just done what Uncharted did better. And like I'm not just talking like single player action games in general. Like like the Tomb Raider games, I have plenty of issues with them, but like I really do legitimately think they like have some improvements over, you know, the Uncharted games, especially in terms of some of their non-linearity and, you know, how they approach certain puzzles where they're actually creative and it's not just like, you know, move this box into X place and, you know, like do this really tedious, you know, look down at your journal and then look back up again.
That's fair.
But potentially, but yeah.
That's fair, but I think Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 4 totally shit on every Tomb Raider game in the last 20 years.
I mean, I don't need to go on my rant about Shadow of the Tomb Raider, right? I don't need to do that again, do I? Because I will.
I really liked the first Tomb Raider reboot, and then their sequel I didn't care for. That was okay, and then the third one was garbage. Or at least it wasn't garbage.
Third one's garbage. I like the first one.
It was very mediocre.
Yeah,
the very best.
I liked Shadow of the Tomb Raider for its gameplay and all that. Like by the end, the stories I
just forgettable.
Couldn't care less about.
Like Uncharted is so memorable. Like Uncharted 2, which is arguably the best one, if not for 4. I think 4 and 2 are like tied for me. 2 is just so memorable. I can tell you so much about that game. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I barely remember anything in that game.
Oh, I remember all but just out of pure rage.
Well, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I remember it because Dory and I talked about it so much. But the second one,
and because I streamed it, and it got more and more hatred towards it throughout the
only thing I remember.
game.
The only thing I remember with the second Tomb Raider game was that like it was a timed exclusive for Microsoft, and then
I actually never played the second, but yeah,
I find it funny. I find it funny we've left that era of Xbox now where it's like they have like big franchises as timed exclusives. Like they had Dead Rising, then they had Tomb Raider.
It's because
I think they had something else.
They would still be doing that. They just screwed up the Xbox One launch so badly that they lost all their marketing deals. Sony just ate it all up.
I mean, like, not to beat a dead horse, but it's like I feel bad knocking on Xbox so much because like I want them to have a win so desperately, and they did with Hi-Fi Rush. Well, but I just want them to have a win so badly at this point.
They've been winning, Mitch, with Game Pass consistently.
Besides, like Game Pass is like a constant thing, if that makes sense. They need like a new knockout win or a new knockout title.
They don't have any.
They're not going to have Knockout City. Hey, I'll be here all week.
They don't have it.
Rest in peace.
They just don't have a big title besides Hi-Fi Rush. Like there's no banger. Like there's no God of War, Spider-Man, Horizon for them. The biggest one is like Gears 5, and that was like what, 4 years ago.
I think Halo Infinite falls into that camp.
No, that game just had too much turmoil and criticism and
like it was a bit of a flash in the pan, but
it was supposed to be their marquee game, and it's been a nightmare for them.
I do remember the campaign. Like I'd say most people agree the campaign was good, if not potentially great. But then in the multiplayer, like everyone loved it at first. But I think it's just like I think we're in a funny stage now where it's just like 5 or 6 years ago, everyone was just like like why can't we have content complete multiplayers where they're not updating it every few weeks or months, yada yada yada. We just want to have the one game and keep playing it, and then when for better or worse they give fans that they're like, we want content. I know that's not the brunt of the issue, but
here's what I find kind of depressing: the fact that I love Sony games as much as the next guy, but I find it just a little depressing that the general consensus is that Microsoft needs to have like a Sony style, so uber polished,
not a Sony style
story game.
They need a game
to be a success.
They need a game that's like Game of the Year contender, like 95 on Metacritic. Like they have not had anything on that level.
Well, that's the thing though. They've got like these little gems,
like
Pentiment and Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah, but that's not a system seller. That's what we're talking.
No, I know, but
I mean, Hi-Fi Rush should be a system seller.
That's a good start. I'm not even anti Xbox. My thing. Go ahead.
It's the Jet Set Radio future of like the Xbox. That's what I think. Of Game Pass.
I have a Series X. I've played my Xbox plenty of times. I've been playing Xbox since 2001. I've had every console they've ever made, so it's not like I'm anti Xbox at all. It's just I don't like their argument with why they should buy Activision is that Sony does it better than us and we suck. I don't think that's a compelling argument of why they should buy Activision. Like that's what.
And I don't think they believe
Sony's better than us.
They want to believe that.
Sony does it better because Sony did everything organically. Like Hi-Fi Rush is something they bought. They didn't make it, and it's exclusive and that's great for them. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying like that's not something they developed because right now they've done a poor job with their IPs. Like almost every game, it seems like it's in a freaking like PR. It's been a nightmare of management. Like all their games are like having trouble being developed. They just mismanage their studios.
I don't disagree like with what James said at all, but I think like at least general public opinion is that like they need a big AAA Microsoft exclusive IP,
which is
supposed
to be Starfield,
to win big.
That's Starfield.
Yeah. I mean, because Starfield was originally developed for. But yeah, I mean, Starfield could be that.
That's the marquee game.
No, like Starfield really does not feel like a marquee
hopefully.
game to me though. At this point,
It's still it's
know.
Bethesda's next game since Fallout 4. So
yeah, but I don't know. I get
what you're saying.
Maybe it's just that they haven't marketed it enough yet. But it doesn't feel like a Skyrim. It doesn't feel like a big deal.
Sure, but
it's also I'd say it's also just because it didn't despite all that they're telling us, it doesn't feel that innovative.
What?
At least in Bethesda's space,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but like I was gonna say, like it mainly just comes down to, and I can rant about it all day long, but it comes down to the engine. It comes down to how the game looks, how the game seems to perform, and I think like the more Todd Howard I love the guy, he's super passionate, but it's like the more he speaks on the game, it's like, oh, we have 1,000 planets, you can go to all of them, and you can do this, and it's like that's like we've had games like No Man's Sky, we've had a bunch of these big open world RPGs that have promised big but have always failed to deliver or have always skimped out on small quality areas.
And even at that,
Bethesda could knock it out of the park, but I don't have.
Even at that, Mitch, I have a life. I don't want 1,000 planets.
Yeah.
I just want one planet, a 10-hour game.
But
no.
I don't think they need to market as much because it's everybody's excited for it. Like that owns an Xbox, so it's like Zelda. Like Nintendo doesn't need to market Zelda. Like when we're like a few weeks away, you put the banner up on Twitter, show some trailers. People will get excited. You don't have to. That game
get the banner ready. Everything
that game
is degradable.
The game doesn't need like a ton of market. Like people said this. People are saying the same thing about God of War Ragnarok. Oh my God, they're not marketing it. And the game sold 11 million in like a few months. So people always overanalyze these things. I think.
Yeah, I don't love that marketing tactic, especially on Sony's part, where it's like we'll just keep everyone in the dark, and then like a month or so.
But it's God of War.
We'll just,
of course, people's gonna buy God of War.
Yeah, like.
It's
100%, but
everybody's
it's
gonna buy that.
It's less so that it's like, oh, I need the marketing to convince me, to buy it in the first place. It's more so just like, like it is kind of like a drip or a carryover from the fact that, like I miss the old E3 press conferences where we'd get like, like 5-10 minutes of gameplay for like, all the big games, and you'd be all excited for it.
Sure.
And, it's... Yeah. What were we gonna say?
I miss him too. But I've got to say, I think the best marketing strategy is exactly what Rockstar did with Red Dead Redemption 2, where it's just one trailer every year until a month before release, and then just throw everything at the wall at once. Because that's the thing, like you don't want to get people excited for the game a year out. You want to get them excited for the game a month before they can buy it, because then they're going to be excited to buy it.
Yeah,
exactly.
I agree. But Microsoft, they're having a rough time with their first party, but they have a bright future. Game Pass is fantastic, and they have a lot of studios now. They're very comfortable. These games are eventually going to start coming out. I mean, like I said, Hi-Fi Rush, Redfall, Starfield, and there's a lot of games right around the corner, like Avowed and Fable. And you got new Forza and so on and so forth. So Microsoft's fine. Hellblade too. But right now they're still in that pattern where Phil says, "My bad, this year was bland.
Yeah,
we'll do better next year." He said that 6 times in the last 6. I'm not even making it up. You can literally.
Yeah.
I saw it on Reset Era and NeoGAF, where it's like they screenshot every time he said that in an article. And there's like 6 years in a row of him saying the exact same quote. Oh, last year was bland. Next year's going to be a lot better. And so they have to prove it to us. I'm so tired of wait for E3 with them. But with that said, they have a lot of games coming out. They have a bright future. Xbox is
E3.
Xbox is doing quite well. It's just Sony's just a juggernaut. Like Microsoft's never gonna match Sony. So Microsoft's they're doing their own thing with the service, and
I
that's
gotta be honest though.
yeah.
I'm getting a little tired. And I know I'm like, I don't want to sound like some Xbox fanboy. These are just my genuine opinions at this current point in time. I am getting a little tired of the Sony formula. Like big open world games with a checklist of things to do, or linear story. Like I love linear story games. The Last of Us Part 2, my favorite game of all time. But I would like to see something creative from them.
I think that's what they're doing.
I don't think we are.
I mean, they're doing the service games now. They got like 10 of them in the making. So
Yeah, but I think
we'll see.
I don't trust them to do anything like that that's not going to be by the book as safe as possible.
I don't disagree with you. The problem is those games don't sell, and I think Jim being like the numbers guy, they realize, oh, we can do a really cool indie game that's like platformy, cartoony, or we do like this cool rhythm game or something, and then the game sells like a million. And then they see like Spider-Man, God of War, Horizon, Uncharted. They see like 15, 20 million. And I understand Sony's perspective of like why waste our time when we can make these big games. I'm like 50-50 because I miss old PS3 Sony where they did every genre. They were they had their backs against the corner and they had to do everything they can to get the market share. But at the same time, I understand why Sony doesn't do that anymore. So I'm like 50-50.
Something I miss too, which I'm interested to hear you guys' perspective of, but it's like I miss the PS3, Xbox 360 gen of like where you'd have your big AAA games, and then you'd buy your studios and stuff, and then you'd have some smaller like Xbox Live Arcade games and PSN games. Like typically we call them like they're indie games for the most part, right? But then it's like you'd still have some like some online only or digital only games that were made by these bigger studios. Like I think Capcom, they did a few smaller titles for like $15 or something. Yeah. And I mean, like I don't have a great deal to say on it, but like I do miss like the times where it's like we could have just these smaller offerings of games, and like companies were comfortable selling them at a reduced price.
The thing is, my thing is also
like 5 hours worth of game time or something.
I think Sony's mindset also is that like we have these indie games that we like market, like we have Stray and Sifu and all those games, like so like they fill in between our big first party games. And even though those are not first party games, I feel like that their mindset is like, those games are like people associate those games with Sony. Like Sifu is on Switch and PC, but people associate Sifu with PlayStation because it was so marketed with them. So I guess that's Sony's mindset. Because me as someone that plays every game on every platform, but PlayStation mainly, that I don't feel that like I'm playing the same game over and over and over again. Because how many Sony exclusives do we get in a year? Like 2, and they're spread out. And then in between that, I'm playing a bunch of indie games and third-party games. So I don't feel that like I'm playing the same game over. I like the Sony template. I love third-person action adventure games. And with big cinematics, I like that because I play so many other genres mixed in. You know what I mean? It's not all I play. I just beat Hi-Fi Rush and Dead Space Remake, and now I'm playing Seasons: The Letter to the Future, which is totally different than everything I just mentioned. So
the thing is, right? It's not even just that. Like because you could call Dead Space Remake, like that's a good example. You could call Dead Space Remake, another linear third-person story game.
It is,
and it is. But to me, that hits way different because it's a horror game and it has this unique tone to it. And I think that's the issue for me. Is like all the Sony games seem to strike the same tone,
where it's like you've got like a semi-charismatic protagonist, and then you've got like
I understand.
world. Is that what you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Marvel films, right? Like they're good, everyone enjoys them, but they all strike the same tone where it's like superhero blockbuster with some comedy thrown in.
I mean, they're all.
I miss the days where everyone enjoys them because now everyone just shits on them.
Sure, I mean they're all. Yeah,
I mean, at least everyone online.
online anyway.
Everyone online shits on him. Sorry, I should have said everyone online. I know online isn't real life, but
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's synonymous. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I think the whole Phase 4 like is overblown because I think most of Phase 4 was good, with like some duds.
Right,
in them.
Phase 4 had easily some of the best stuff Marvel.
I love
has
Black
ever
Panther
done.
too. I really love that movie. I watched it again.
Werewolf
I
by
just watched it
Night,
today again.
No Way Home.
No Way Home. And
Yeah.
I didn't care for Thor Love and Thunder. And I didn't care for
No, it's hard. It's
No, I
my
don't
least
think anyone
favorite
did.
movie. My least favorite movie of the
and
year.
I didn't care for the Eternals. Like I that was okay. I wasn't entertained, but it's very forgettable.
Eternals is one of those things where like I appreciated it a lot for what it was trying to do, but you know, and as much as I could like at the time go, it's like, oh yeah, 8, 9 out of 10. Like now looking back on, it's like, yeah, it has its issues. It has a lot of issues.
It was trying too hard to be world building. Like it tried.
I
wouldn't
just
even
pissed
say
at it.
well, yeah. It spent too much time trying to build the whole world.
I was just pissed off at it because spoilers for Eternals. There was finally a Scottish superhero and they turned him into a villain. I'm still mad about it.
But the most exciting thing about that movie was Black Knight and Blade, and that's pretty much like all I care about that movie.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize it was Blade until like the following morning. I'm like, I recognize that voice, but I don't know who.
And I thought Multiverse of Madness was pretty solid. I didn't think it was great, but I didn't think it was bad. I was entertained.
I think
Raimi.
I don't want to say loved it. Like I thought it was really great, but that was also a lot of it was just out of nostalgia and like going like, oh, Sam Raimi's doing like the Evil Dead thing or he's doing horror. Is it like a fun time, not something to like necessarily critically analyze? Because I'm sure like if you looked at it under critical lens, there's a ton of shit you can find, and that goes for a lot of Marvel movies. But I think obviously some hold up better than others.
It's funny for me though, because like, see, for the first 3 phases, I was the one shitting on them, saying, "Oh, they're just watch a real movie. They're boring. What do you get out of them?" And now like Phase 4's around, and I'm starting to like, I've started to enjoy them and accept them, and now everyone else hates them.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's also just because like Phase 4's given us some of the worst stuff Marvel's ever done, but then like again, like some of the worst stuff, some of the best stuff. So it's like I think some fans have sort of gravitated towards the worst stuff more and have gone, oh, look how far the mighty has fallen, yada yada yada, and then exactly. And then they look at and then some people look at the good stuff, and then it's like, look how far they've risen, or stuff like that.
I think it's just that like they're doing now the most polarizing stuff that they've done. Like most of their things that are coming out, it feels like instead of like before, it would have been like everyone's like, oh, this is great, but now it's like half the people are saying this is amazing, the best thing I've ever seen, and half of the people are saying it's awful.
It's because everybody loves Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Mark Ruffalo, and they're moving on from that now. They're establishing all these new characters, the Young Avengers. They're doing Riri Williams, who even in the comics book she's controversial because they just call her the Black Iron Man because she that's what people always say about her, and they just find a lot of the newer characters to be, I don't know, just because a lot of people don't like the newer Marvel, just the newer characters they've created and stuff like that. Like when they do Wiccan eventually, him being like one of the most the most openly gay superhero, and he's marries Hulkling. I don't know if they're gonna do that in the MCU, but when they eventually do, there's gonna be a shitload of backlash from the internet people over that. And they're gonna be like, "Oh, it's an agenda." Da da da. Yeah. But you can't go by the internet. Most people really like the Phase 4. And they don't love it as much as like the previous ones, but obviously you're getting like what 80-something, 70% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I mean, like I feel like
they're getting a lot of money. I don't.
I mean, Marvel's
that's a failure.
Marvel's like phases 1 through 3 were like a very specific moment in time where. Obviously, like the cinematic universe was a new thing, at least in terms of it being done well. And, I think at the time, because we'd have like 1, 2, maybe 3 movies per year at that stage, and they were just movies, so like it was fairly easy to keep track of for,
Yeah,
you know, a decent amount of people. So then by the time we got to Infinity War and Endgame, almost everyone could collectively come together and say, yes, you know, like we've all you know been together on this ride. Whereas like now like it's spread across Disney Plus, it's you know spread across all these different avenues. Like, you know, I'll probably continue watching it for however long, but it's like, even like last year especially, I was just getting exhausted. It was like, okay, another fucking Marvel show.
Yeah,
but the thing is, I never feel that, because it's like, it's not like I'm watching a Disney Marvel show every day. Like it's like it's spread out. I feel like I watch plenty of movies in between and shows in between.
I think it's less like the actual act of watching it, but it's also just like the internet conversation that comes from it.
Yes, yeah.
You know, as polarizing
as
it may be, and it's
I
like,
avoid that now.
We're just going through that whole song and which
and
is
that,
probably
like,
for
that
the best.
is-
It's like
it's
just
30
going through that whole
minutes.
song and dance every single week.
It's
and
40
every single
40 minutes
time.
of my 40 minutes of my Wednesday. Like, how is that like taking over my week?
Yeah, like
that is their
I mean, like,
strategy, right? Is like they don't want you to be thinking about anything else. They want to constantly keep feeding you stuff.
that's it.
Like they don't want it to stop. It's the endless conveyor belt.
Sure.
100%. And it like, I think like it's less, you know, like 40 minutes, like watching 40 minutes of a Marvel show, perfectly fine. I mean, watching 40 minutes of like a CW show, not fine in any way, even if, you know, like even if no one on the internet was talking about them, not fine.
Yeah.
But, you know, like it's less the act, but it's just like the fact that I can't, I mean, I can't, but it's like just that constant going and going and going of the new conversation is just exhausting. But speaking of exhausting, we should probably move on.
Yeah, I was right about to say that. Speaking of Naughty Dog, they said they might do part 3. They're iffy. They're 50-50. It depends if they can do a compelling story or not. I think it's pretty much. I think they're going to do part 3.
They're doing part 3.
Last of Us is going to be a giant IP now, even more than it already is. So
yeah,
they have the casual audience now that doesn't even know about video games, or doesn't.
Do you think?
I feel like.
What do you think is more likely? Neil Druckmann has an idea for part 3, or Jim Sony sends him a vaguely threatening email when he says he's not going to make part 3.
It's like Neil Druckmann and Jim Sony in a meeting. It's just like, oh, you know, like, hey Jim, I'll do part 3 if I have a good idea, and then just, you know,
I just imagine that meeting being
just like, yes.
Yeah, I just imagine that meeting with Jim Ryan.
You have that good idea.
And Druckmann, and they're just like alone in a boardroom, and Neil's like, so hey, what's up? And there's just a big, Jim Ryan pushes a button, and just a big wallpaper goes, hey, make TLOU 3 please. And Neil just nods, go like, okay, I'm getting the message.
I'm picturing like a boardroom, and then like it's dark, and like Jim's like standing in front of the window with lighting, like drinking something, and then Neil sits down, and then 2 bodyguards like stand behind Neil. So,
has anyone seen the comically underrated comedy Game Night at all? Has anyone seen Game Night with like Jason Bateman and all that?
No, I saw you retweet something about it.
Okay, you're missing out. There's a scene where one of the characters, who's played by Billy Magnuson, they're like trying to bribe someone to like get information about this game they're playing. So he's like, you know, like gets his wallet out, then he just like slams a $1 note on the table and slowly starts moving it towards her, and then the camera pans down and just shows like it's a $1 note. And then he's like, okay, that's not enough. Slams down another note, and that's just another $1 note. And then he's just like, you know, does it like one final time. It's like, okay, final offer. And then it's like a $5 note. And then it's like, that's all I have. That's me. Or that'd be, well, not Jim Stoney, because he has all the money in the world, but you get my point. Just intimidation.
I do think Naughty Dog's had this plan. Like, I do think they have. They have had discussions about part 3. But if they stopped at part 2, I'd be okay with that as well. I mean, I like the ending, even though it was bleak. But
the thing is, like, I was sorry, like when part 2 came out, and like even for like a long while after, I was like staunchly thinking, okay, I do not want a part 3. Like, no matter what, like,
you guys
part
did
2
say
is
that.
like, you know, it's like I don't want a part 3 at all
at the time.
But I think as time has gone on, especially with the HBO show, I think because the HBO show has proved that it's like, you know, especially like with Neil, it's like he still has some fuel left in the tank, so to speak, and it's like, and he can still enter this world and still do something great and innovative and fresh and like highly emotive. I'm like, okay, like part
I
3
don't
is still
know,
possible.
Mitch. I felt like episode 3 completely kept to the source material. Don't you?
Yeah.
My most sarcastic.
Well, no,
tone possible.
that's what I'm saying. Like
Exactly.
they can do
Yeah.
brand new stories in the
Yeah.
Last of Us world.
Well,
and
that is
still
the
have
question.
Protect us just as much.
You gotta love people.
That is the question, though. Is Neil Druckmann going to sully himself with lowly video games now that he's a hotshot TV director?
Sully himself, everybody. Sully, sorry.
Of course.
I mean,
because
don't
Sony
forget,
games are already
we've
movie
still got-
games, right? So.
He's. I mean, to be fair, we've got factions, that's confirmed, and then we've already got another IP from him that may or may not be part 3. Probably is part.
I think
He's a busy guy.
But
I actually think it's a new IP. I just don't know what it is. The
The thing is,
rumor is
it
it's a
but,
fantasy
who knows?
game. That's the rumor.
I mean, we all said after part 2 was announced that The Last of Us didn't need a sequel, and I think a lot of us said after we finished part 2 that it didn't need a sequel. At this point, to be honest, I'm just learning to trust Naughty Dog and accept whatever they
I'm
do.
the same.
I bought
Yeah,
every Naughty Dog
exactly
they ever
that.
made, and I'm not gonna stop. So, they're my favorite developers. So,
You bought
Yeah,
that ski game that they did?
yeah.
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 Was it good?
No.
Even the original FPS game they came out with on the PC.
Neil
or
Neil
Mac or
Druckmann
whatever it was.
is fuming in his
I
$1
would.
billion
I
office
do.
right now. So
I am
Human.
curious. I would like to see them try like a Jack and Daxter kind of game again. See if they can get away from the third person action.
I'd love for
genre.
that. Unironically, I'd love that.
Because if they do a
I doubt
fantasy game, I got a feeling it's gonna be like God of War ish. Because the rumor was it's like a Vikings game. I really don't want to go back to Vikings.
Wasn't it supposed to be? I thought I heard the new IP was supposed to be in space, or did
That was all the rumor. That's in space, and so that would be cool. We had this. I think we had this conversation before about like a Naughty Dog sci-fi game. Like,
Yeah.
I'm curious how they would handle like dialogue boxes and like like Mass Effect-ish. Like I want to see Naughty Dog do an RPG. Because they never done an RPG.
I think at least with Neil Druckmann right now, their expertise, so to speak, is very curated story experiences. Like, I mean, they could do open-ended RPGs and stuff, but it's like they're one of the very few developers today, besides like maybe Rockstar and maybe a couple other people who can do these like linear path story games. Like better than good, like amazingly well. I'd rather just see them continue down that path, for a little while longer at least before.
You know what though? There's not really that much linear space games. Like all of them seem to be, they tend to be RPGs or like open area, open world games.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. Like
really
setting,
not
like
linear ones.
doesn't matter the setting. I'll be there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Unless it's like unless it's like a farming sim in that case, maybe not.
No,
but
I don't. we can leave like what we think part 3 is going to be about and for a different topic because we will be here for another hour if we get into that. So, but
I think we've already discussed that before as well. To be honest,
we did in the Discord, but
even unintentionally. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, that'd be a good topic another time, but we probably should move on. So do we all agree? Are we all like in favor of a part 3 now in comparison of 2 years ago?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
Yeah. All right.
Which is funny, but
Yeah,
Right.
it's super funny.
yeah, like I'm all for more Last of Us. I'm excited for factions. So hopefully that
Franchise
comes
it
soon.
Give me spin-off after spin-off.
Speaking of big franchise with spin-off after spin-off, we're getting a Resident Evil 4 remake next month.
yes.
Which I can't believe it's next. I can't believe it's next month. Like it feels so far away. And they so Game Informer did a whole interview and they showed us gameplay of Chapter 5 when Leon rescues Ashley. And they showed like what 10-20 minutes of gameplay. I think it was like 10 minutes. 10 minutes of gameplay.
So it was 15 minutes with the last minute being like inventory stuff.
Yeah.
I just watched it yesterday.
So they showed the scene where Leon rescues Ashley, and like when you get out of the church and you get surrounded by the Ganados, And apparently, when the Ganados grab Ashley, you can actually run up to them and stab them in the neck to let them go of Ashley. And then they showed the scene where you get trapped in the house with Lewis, and they introduced a new enemy, a guy with like a bullhead, which was it's typical Resident Evil, reminded me of Resident Evil 5, but it was cool. The gameplay looks really fun. It looks like Resident Evil 2, but like with more action. It's taking. It even has parrying, which is crazy.
Yeah.
It looks like it's taking the best aspects. It's taking the best aspects of the RE remakes they've done recently, with like the best aspects of some Western games like The Last of Us. I know.
It reminds me of actually the gameplay reminded me of Last of Us Part 2.
I mean
it set the standard, I think, for the genre.
Exactly, but it's like, and I think it's cool to see that they the sprinting isn't just keeping the gun holstered and running with it. Now it's like an actual run, and like touches like that, it makes it feel more. I hesitate to say realistic, because that's not necessarily what they're going for here, but it just makes it feel more fun to watch, and I'm assuming fun to play. Bring it closer to some of the Western games that we've been playing.
It just feels more modern. Like the fact that Leon can stealth.
That's it.
You can just stealth and stab an enemy in the neck with a knife. That's
exactly.
I don't think I've ever seen stealth in Resident Evil. Off the top of my head, it was 6. I think.
It was in. I know it was in Revelations 2.
Revelations 2
that had a crouch as well.
Yes, it did.
And then I think RE6 just had their stealth was just walk up behind an enemy who's got their back to you, and then suplex them, and then everyone else knows where you are now, so you got to shoot.
Yeah.
That's it.
Out of nowhere! Oh my god!
RKO their head off.
Sorry.
I do like this game kept the quick time events, not like the in cutscenes, but in you can kick enemies and stuff, and then stab them in the neck. So you can conserve so much ammo doing that, because original Resident Evil, you shoot an enemy in the leg, you kick them, and then you just slash them with the knife. So you save all your ammo.
Over and over again until they bled
out. I think because I watched the 12-minute gameplay trailer they had with Game Informer last night, and something that really shone out to me is that they're taking, they're doing the RE1 remake thing and the Dead Space remake thing, where it's they're taking all of the elements of the original, or as much as possible, and either keeping them or updating them slightly. So we've still got the attaché case system, but now it's they've expanded it, so you can get all these different cases, but now they've got different perks, and different bonuses you can attach to them, and we've still got the saving systems, but now you can have a weapon storage and stuff, which is something people have wanted. And we've got side quests now, and we've got bigger, more non-linear areas that actually loop around into each other, instead of just kind of go right, hit a dead end, and then go back the other way, which is supposed to go. It seems, because and the thing that got me excited as well is that all throughout the 12-minute gameplay thing, the Game Informer guys were saying is we they turned left in this gameplay, but it's we could have turned right, and there was a whole other area that we missed, and they were saying that constantly, and that's what really got me excited. I'm not expecting, and nor am I hoping a 12 to 15 hour game from this, because I think if anything, one of RE4, the original RE4's weaknesses was that it was too long. If this is a clean 10 to 12 hours, perfect. That's all I want.
If it's I don't know, if it's Dead Space's length, that's good.
Yeah, well, that's it. Because I haven't beat Dead Space yet, but it's I'm estimating it'll take me about 10 hours or so, and I'd be happy with that for a first playthrough. Because with RE games, typically you do play them more than once.
If it's Dead Space is about 12 to 15 hours, so I would think Resident Evil 4 is about that.
Yeah. I think that's the perfect length for these kind of bigger horror games with some action elements in it.
Like I said, it's mind blowing that it's so close. I'm not through the moon excited right now, but only because I'm just so far away. But once we get a week of, I'm gonna be all I think about. I'm gonna be so happy, because Because Resident Evil 4 is my favorite game of all time, and I've beaten that 25 times. So, I'm gonna do nothing but comparing it, like, because I could speedrun that game. That's why I beat it so many times. Yeah, like I'm so excited for it when it comes out. Oh my god. I can't believe it's really a month away. I can't believe it.
I've mentioned before, but I wasn't hot on it at first when they first announced it. I was like, I don't know.
I was the same way.
And then they started showing trailers and gameplay footage, and I'm like, holy fuck, this looks amazing.
Exactly.
You know, similar to Seb, I grew up with Resident Evil 4. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I've beaten it probably second to Kingdom Hearts 2. I mean, you know, there's a big gap between those two games, but with Resident Evil 4, I've still beaten it probably more than most games I've beaten, and played it on more consoles than most other games.
Resident Evil 4, when I first saw it on IGN back in 2004, because it came out January 2005, I was blown. The gameplay was just like so ahead of its time. Like obviously nowadays it's stiff, and a lot of games did it better, but at the time it was incredible. Like I couldn't believe it. So the fact that this looks more modern, looks like it plays more like Last of Us Part 2. It's just more fluid. It has more speed. You can crouch. You can parry. There's just a lot of actions you can do. I love that Resident Evil always tries to do something. Always tries to innovate its franchise. It doesn't always work, but I always appreciate that Capcom tries to innovate Resident Evil.
I think, you know, with the benefit of hindsight and, you know, sort of how recent Resident Evil games have gotten, I think, you know, because, like, I love Resident Evil 2 Remake. Like, it's one of my favorite games of all time. I mean, that game I've probably beaten close to maybe 15 times.
Same.
You know, that's probably my equivalent to Step with Resident Evil 4. But I think, you know, the thing with that is that, like, you know, even as someone who hasn't played the original RE2 yet, I was playing it and I was thinking, I know, but I finally have the console to play it on, so I plan to rectify that soon.
True.
But essentially, you know, like even like, you know, with my limited knowledge and experience with the original, I was playing the remake and thinking, oh, well, you know, that bit's shorter than what they had originally, or oh, you know, they cut that bit out, you know. And I mean, don't get me started on RE3. Like, you know, good game. Sorry, Jamie, it's good.
All right, no, we're not doing this again. We're moving on. We don't need to talk about Resident Evil 3 every goddamn time we talk about Resident Evil.
Resident Evil 2.
I agree. We don't.
Resident Evil 2 remake is near perfect
for very different reasons.
Except that Resident Evil 2's original story was much better than the remake. The remake did not do a good job telling the story. It still was good, but it wasn't. Resident Evil 2 story.
I will say, so here are the concerns I had looking at the gameplay footage, looking at everything I saw, and they're pretty minor concerns. One, I'm still not sure how I feel about the merchant having the voice actor that he does, which is the same as the guy from Resident Evil 8. And I think we should also talk about the elephant in the room. We should talk about Raingate. A lot of people thought that the rain looked bad. I don't think it looks that bad. It certainly does not look Grand Theft Auto Remaster bad.
It doesn't look bad. It's just too much. It's too much.
It's a little much.
It's way too much.
To be fair, in the gameplay, they did say that there's a big weather storm coming in. Granted, the effects still don't look great, but like I suppose that's the way they could contextualize it somewhat in the game. But
my biggest problem with the remake that I'm seeing is I'm not crazy about the character models. They just look a little off to me.
I think Ashley looks amazing, and Leon looks great too.
I don't think they look bad. It's just something. They don't look as quality as like a Naughty. Like it's just something off about it. I
haven't watched the gameplay, but have you seen the Game Informer magazine cover?
Yeah.
Like it looks unbelievable.
It does.
Incredible.
But when I was watching the gameplay, I was like, "There's something off about that." I don't like Leon's design. It's just something about his face, like the shadow. I don't know what it is, but something a little.
I have a similar issue, but I think for me, it's more so the textures or all the basically like the resolution or like, you know, the quality of all the models and stuff in the game. It doesn't look as striking to me or as realistic as Resident Evil 8. Like I feel like in terms of like detail, I think I prefer that game to look. But I am thinking that it might just be a matter of lighting.
I think it's the lighting.
Instead of.
I do think it's.
I think it's the lighting. I hope it is, because like it's the RE engine, like it's capable of like some amazing stuff, and like even replaying Devil May Cry 5 a while back, like that is for the game that it is,
that's
and
what
the
I'm
amount
saying,
of stuff that it has to process at once,
yeah.
it looks incredible.
The RE engine is phenomenal. Like the character models are probably the best parts of the engine, but I don't know, it's just something off about it. It's throwing me off. But this is a nitpick. This is a nitpick.
Yeah, I mean, because when the game was announced, I had that issue, but I'm like, okay, well, like they've had it in the past with other games where it's like, they obviously improved the look of things as it got closer to release. There's still probably some tweaking that they can do now, but it's like now that it's like, probably only a few weeks at this stage from going gold.
I think
maybe not, but who knows?
I think I just prefer their Leon. I just never been a. He looks good in the remake and everything, Resident Evil remake and everything. I just prefer like their original Leon and Resident Evil. Like I just like in his Resident Evil 6 like design. I'm just accustomed to that, and it throws me off when I see.
We'll be honest, Resident Evil 6 Leon with like the police or SWAT uniform with like the sleeves roll out. That's peak Leon costume design for me.
I do want to give a shout out to the guy in the one about the Game Informer video about them making new enemies. Because he literally played the original Resident Evil 4 as a student and now gets to design the game as part of the development team. And that man is living his fucking dream right now. So that's amazing. There's just a little tidbit from the making new enemies and designing new enemies video that Game Informer released on the remake.
The thing is with these remakes is like, obviously Resident Evil 4 is my favorite game of all time, and it's hard not to compare things, and it's like, that game has a 96 on Metacritic, and this, I feel like this game is probably not going to get a 96, but it's like, does it make it better or worse? It's like it's one of those things where you get in that conversation where it's like, this is better here and here and here, but is it more memorable than Resident Evil 4? And but is it only memorable because it's nostalgic, not because it's just a better? It's just one of those conversations. That's the problem with remakes, but I have no issues with remakes. Like when remakes are quality games, good, right? Because Resident Evil 2 remake, fantastic. Dead Space remake, fantastic. So if it reaches the quality of Resident Evil 2 remake and Dead Space remake and not Resident Evil 3, then we're golden. But if it does Resident Evil 3 and it's a 7 out of 10, that's a big disappointment to me.
I mean, I thought it was an 8 out of 10, but I think even if it gets Resident Evil, even if it gets, I would be disappointed. I ignored whatever James just said. But whatever, like I would also be disappointed if it was only as good as Resident Evil 3, because as much as I defend that game apparently to my death, that I would still be disappointed if it was only as good as that, because I think it should be at least a 9 out of 10 kind of game, or if not 10 out of 10.
It should be on Dead Space Remake's level.
Exactly.
100%. I think because I don't have just that same connection and nostalgia for the original RE4 as most people, and Seb especially, I view the remake. It's kind of weird because like I'm viewing the remake less through the lens of like a remake, or something that has to kind of aspire to reach the standards of the original, and more so just like, okay, like it feels like the RE4 that I've wanted all along, if that makes sense. Like like I, as much as I appreciate it and like enjoy all this goofiness, I am really looking forward to. Maybe not a darker take, because I don't think that's what they're going for, but like a more modern, slightly more like a new take on the story with a bit more edge to it, a bit more teeth.
I mean, it is clearly darker. I mean, Resident Evil 4 is definitely an action game, like it, one-liners and goofy Rambo kind of shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Running up the wall.
And I don't think anyone would necessarily want to argue that, like, and I don't think anyone at the dev team would necessarily argue that they're trying to make it like a full-blown horror game, because like in the gameplay trailer alone, we had like what friggin' like like a group of a dozen Ganados like just spawning right in front of you, and like you had to take them out with like shotguns and like all your flip kicks and stuff. Like it's not trying to be like RE2 remake where like it's very tense. You have to like carefully consider everything.
Yeah.
It's it's meant to be a horror action game, and I think, you know, with all the updated controls and mechanics and stuff, I feel like this could be the RE4 that me and hopefully a lot of other people really do gravitate towards, and like go like, you know, like the Leo pointing memes, like, yes, that's it.
Yeah, it's gonna be more like Dead Space. Or Dead Space, you know, Dead Space improved upon Resident Evil 4 gameplay, and became but it also has more horror in it. So it has that modern action combined with the horror, with survival horror. It has the similar elements of dropping items and item boxes and all that merchant.
Absolutely.
But it's still more of a horror game. I can easily use that as a transition to Dead Space Remake, but I want to talk about Seasons.
We'll hold it off for a little bit longer.
Yeah, we'll hold it off for a little longer because I don't want to conclude with Seasons to a Letter, because I've only played it for a short time. All right, so Seasons to a Letter, Seasons a Letter to the Future. I really like it so far. It's very chill. After playing Dead Space Remake, I just beat that today. This game is a nice, refreshing, just put, chill out, put your headphones on, enjoy the music, enjoy the nice, calm gameplay of riding a bike down a path, taking pictures of things, using the audio. If you play this game with headphones. This game has one of the best audio designs I've ever heard in a game, because what happens is she will pull out a microphone and she'll put it near like an object or a frog or anything like that, and it intensifies the sound, and it's a really incredible experience. This game is meant to be played with a DualSense and with headphones. So please, if you have the 3D Pulse headset or whatever headphones that does 3D audio, you please wear headphones with this game, because this is where the game really shines. That and the art style and the cell shading, it's really cool. It's not going to be for everybody. It's one of those games like Pentiment or whatever, where most people are going to be like, oh, this is boring. But if you really like the artsy, emotional story, tell a story through the subtleties of things, of objects, of taking pictures, and piecing the story together through whatever you're doing, you'll really love this game. But if you're looking for like a linear narrative story, this is not the game for you. This is not a game that's gonna move needles or anything like that. This is a very nice, chill indie game. It's probably like more AA indie-ish game, but it's high. It's quality. The look of it is very quality. The sound design is quality. The DualSense features is quality. But this definitely feels like Sony backed it up. And this is one of the examples I was talking about earlier, right? Is that we know Sony for God of War and Uncharted and Horizon and all that, and even though this is not a first party game, this is the game in between those, right? So it feels like I'm playing something different on my PlayStation. So I really recommend this game. It's $30. Maybe wait for a sale if that sounds pricey for you, but I got it for like $5 because I had PlayStation Stars, so no complaints there.
Do I, in order to understand Seasons A Letter to the Future, do I need to have played Seasons A Letter 1 The Future?
And that's our show, everybody. Hey, I thought I'd be making the worst jokes of this podcast, but it looks like we found our place.
All right, Dead Space Remake.
We jumped the shark.
I will say, I considered buying this, but after playing Prey, I wanted to play something a little more brighter and jovial, which Seasons, it's brighter, but it's not super jovial. It's a lot about loss and a lot about trying to deal with loss and whatnot, which is fine. I think that's great that video games can now tackle that stuff, or always have, whatever. And then I ended up playing Hi-Fi Rush, which really scratched that itch, and now I'm playing Sunset Overdrive. But I really want to, I don't know, I'm still thinking about getting Seasons at some point. I think the game looks beautiful. I like the general idea of riding around. It looks like a great podcast game, honestly. I could imagine myself listening to a nice D&D podcast and just playing this game at the same time. $30 doesn't seem too bad for me. I've heard it's about 6 to 8 hours, so that's not too bad. But I wouldn't mind if it was like 20. I think 20 would be perfect for this kind of game. 30, I think, is okay.
It was on sale if you pre-ordered it. It was like $3 off and then I had like $25 in my PlayStation wallet, so it was like $2.
Yeah, I heard there was a demo at one point. I wish I had played that demo. I guess I missed.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of Life is Strange with the pictures, honestly, like because just the way the book looks when you open the book up, and it has like the white background, and you see the pictures, the Polaroids and everything. I don't know what more to say. That's really the game. That's the whole game. Like that's if you're looking for a game where you just have a chill experience with nice music and nice sound effects and a phenomenal sound design and cool DualSense features and cool cel shaded look. This is the game I recommend. This would have been a cool game for PlayStation Plus, like like Stray. You put it on there. I think this probably game this game would probably get more buzz if had it been on like, a service.
Do you think my one question actually about
it,
is I played the demo.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the demo kind of tells you all you need to know? Like, do you think if you bounce off the demo, is it worth trying the full game, or is the demo like a good indication of whether you like it or not?
I didn't play the demo, so what did the demo entail?
Right, so the demo was just this level, I think near the start of the game, where you're just kind of going through this. It's just one area. You're just going through, taking pictures of stuff and adding them to your notebook.
It was like a
and
town?
Recording sounds. Yeah.
That's the whole game. So if you like the demo, then you'll like this game. If you didn't like the demo, you probably won't like this game.
Honestly. Yeah, that's why I wish I had played the demo. But yeah, I think this game looks great. I think more games like this, more chill games like this, are always welcome for me. I like walking simulators. I'm not using that disparagingly, but I enjoy games like that. And I've got a bunch of them on my Steam and a couple on elsewhere. So I think this is awesome that it's here and that folks can play it. It's only $30, which is not bad. I think any more and it'd be completely unreasonable. But
like I said, I love me some God of War. I love me some Uncharted, but I'm the same person that beat Beacon Pines, Pentiment, and then I'm playing Norco. So it's like I love me some indies too. My biggest criticism of this game is the controls are a little wonky. The movement's a little clunky.
I've heard that.
And the bike controls are bad. The bike controls are not good.
Which is a shame because you're mostly on the bike.
Yeah, because you have to do like the trigger. You do left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right.
What? Oh, that's.
And then you have to hold you have to get off the bike. You have to hit the R1, and then you have to hold the circle to get away from the bike. It's a little.
And then you can't use. From what I heard, you can't use the map while you're on the bike. So you have to get off the bike and then look at the map and then get back on the. Which is obviously it doesn't sound like a big deal in isolation, but when your whole 6 to 8 hour game revolves around being on a bike.
From what I've been playing, I've been just going straight. I haven't had an issue progressing. I only played an hour, so I'm not like it's not like I've gotten far, but my thing is, this game might not.
1/8 of the game. Yeah.
That's why I can give a commentary on this because I've had this the whole game. I don't think there's going to be anything radically different. I guess the only thing I haven't experienced yet is the side characters and all the emotional story. I'm sure that's going to be the best part of the game when I get to it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be playing this after the podcast and then tomorrow as well. So maybe I'll beat it tomorrow. I don't know how long. It's like, you said it's like 7-8 hours.
It's like 6 to 8 hours. 6 if you're like kind of mainlining it. 8 if you're doing more side missions, and then longer if you're completionist. But yeah, I don't see why you would.
You know what's weird is this game does not have a platinum.
It doesn't?
No, it's one of those rare 100%ers.
Huh. Strange.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
You don't see that anymore.
I watched 2 reviews on it. One from Escapist. They have a 3-minute review series that I really like because it usually gets straight to the point. And then I think Gaming Bolt or something had like a 7-minute review where they went a little more depth. So I recommend checking out those reviews if you're undecided. But it looks like a cool game. I have not pulled the trigger on it, and I'm not sure I will. I'm not in the right mood for it. But yeah, I definitely encourage folks to check it out.
Yeah,
these are important.
Play it when you're in the right mindset for it. Like obviously, I've just played Dead Space Remake, and so I need a nice chill game to after that. Because that game had me on my edge of my seat the entire time. Because that's kind of like a Souls game where anytime an enemy can jump at you, and you have to be, You can lose your health real quick. So this game is a nice change of pace. But on your end though, like playing Sunset Overdrive and Hi-Fi Rush, obviously this game would be a buzzkill.
Yeah.
After those games.
Yeah.
So.
After I played Prey, I was like, I want something a little more cheerful and nice. And I'm like, Hi-Fi Rush, let's do that. And then I'm like, you know what? I could use like another energetic, alt-rocky kind of game. And I'm like, Sunset Overdrive. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Yeah. And it's like, okay, I'm getting like infamous Second Son vibes from it. But yeah.
Sunset Overdrive is really fun. I beat it last year for the first time. Only thing I hate about that game is you have to be on rails. If you go on the floor and you're surrounded,
it's so slow. And it's like I understand they want to motivate you to be on the rails, but it's like you don't have to punish the player that much.
Yeah, if you fall on the floor and get surrounded, you're screwed.
You're just dead. You're just dead. Your health immediately depletes.
It was
I also think
still
trying too hard to be funny and edgy, but whatever.
Yeah, it has that 2014.
Yes. Yeah. It was talking about Reddit and GameFAQs, and I'm like, oh boy, this is kind of dating itself 10 years ago.
Yeah. All right, let's get into Dead Space Remake now.
All right, Seb, I want to go on my rant for 1 second, and then you can go into how great this game is.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, so I just want to say something real quick about this game that pisses me off, and it's similar to the stuff I talked about before with Hi-Fi Rush. I mean, not exactly the same, but I do think it sucks. I just put it out there. I think it sucks that EA kind of killed the original studio behind this game and killed the franchise with Dead Space 3. And now they're coming back and they're making a remake, and now they're trying to profit off that. I just want to say, like, I think that really sucks. I'm not saying that means you shouldn't play the game or should play the game. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I love Dead Space 1. I played it. I beat it. I enjoyed it a lot. It's one of my favorite survival horror games. Although I'm not saying I played a million of them, but it's definitely up there in like my top 3 or top 5. It's an incredible game. But I do think it kind of sucks that EA is doing that. That said, I do hope this leads to revitalization of the series because it's a great series. It's a great concept, and I love me some good survival horror. So that's the little mini rant I wanted to go on.
I think the way I interpret it is that like there's two distinct eras of EA, and I'm not sure if it's due to a management change or just I don't know, the heads of EA just, had a sudden epiphany, but it's like we have the I want to say 2018, 2019 EA, where it's like, you had your
pre-Battlefront
2. Well, yeah, basically like Battlefront 2 and before that, where it's like you had your, like the money-hungry EA, where it's like it's all about integrating multiplayer and microtransactions into literally whatever you can find. And then we have like the post Battlefront 2 EA, where it's like, okay, we've got like all these EA originals. Is that what the service is called? Where they have like that like they have
the indie publishing label.
It takes It Takes Two's, your A Way Outs, your Unravels. Yeah, exactly. And then you've got like Jedi, Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Fallen Survivor, and then we've got. Yeah, exactly, and it's like it's this really weird, Apex. Like I think everyone remembers, that when Battlefront 2 came out, like one of the heads was like, oh, people don't care about single player games these days, and
they've
like
done a 180 on that one.
Yeah, they really have.
100%.
I definitely think EA has gone through a change. I believe people can change, and that means I believe organizations and companies can change. I think than what they used.
I think they must feel a lot of pride and accomplishment over that change that they've made.
I mean, I hope they do because
you didn't get the joke. I was making a reference to that. Do you not remember that Reddit post they did for the Battlefront 2 when people were complaining about the progression and the microtransactions in Battlefront 2?
Oh, what?
The most downvoted Reddit comment in history.
Hours.
Yeah,
like pride and joy about spending 100 hours on
yeah.
But
oh god, good times.
Yeah, EA's they've been phenomenal the last few years. I mean, It Takes Two won Game of the Year.
Great game.
Respawn's been carrying them on their back until besides the EA originals and Apex and Titanfall 2 and Jedi Fallen Order and you got Jedi Survivor in a couple months and now Motive, the studio that made Dead Space Remake, did Squadrons, which was a pretty solid game. It wasn't phenomenal, but it was high quality, like space combat game.
I wish I could have enjoyed it. It made me nauseous, but I'm sure it was a great game.
I played it in VR and it was really cool, but it wasn't. But it wasn't anything more than that. The story wasn't anything crazy, so it was standard space simulator. But so they gave them the Dead Space remake, which is Dead Space is a major IP, so we lost Mitch, and then Dory went somewhere. The fact that they gave Dead Space remake to them is so they must have really trusted them, and they've lived up to it. This game is on the level of Resident Evil 2 remake. It's that quality. I can't believe how good this game is. The graphics in terms of
oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Like in terms of like overall quality and gameplay, RE2 remake 100%. But I feel like in terms of faithfulness and like design philosophy, I feel like it's a lot closer to RE1 remake. If that makes sense, because I think
you mean like because it's mostly the same game.
It's mostly the same game, but it's like they've expanded it.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I don't mean as in like, I mean it more on the lines of it's a modern remake, like.
No.
But I get what you're saying. It is shot for shot, for the most part, except for like a few sections. Thank God they got rid of like you shoot the asteroids. They replaced it. They replaced it with that flying section, which is way better.
I'll admit I still didn't love the the change they did, but like it's still a hell of a lot better than the original. That was awful.
Right. I beat this game, and I like it is like Resident Evil. All the Resident Evil games that I love, that like edge of my seat, didn't know what to expect. It has a cool system like Resident Evil 2 remake, where if you're doing too well, it starts spawning more random enemies at you. Because literally, no matter where you go, any hallway has an enemy. It could have an enemy in it, and it's random. You never know. Like, so you never know. Like, even when you're backtracking, because there's a lot of backtracking in this game. One of the ways this game really, really shines is that you can backtrack the entire ship, which you couldn't do in the other game, in the original. You can literally all the way until chapter 10. You can go from the front of the ship to the back of the ship, because later on you do get if you do what you're supposed to, like do the side quest and get the logs and everything. Because I 100% this game. I got all the logs. I got all the side quests, and you can go back and go to like a level 3 door, and you can get a shitload of items for doing. You get rewarded for exploring. Which I love. That's what Resident Evil does, and this is why I love that. This is why Dead Space is such a great series, like Resident Evil, is that you get rewarded for exploring and going back and taking your time. It's one of those things like why I love survival horror so much is you get rewarded for playing correctly. Like you can see the difference in skills. Like I know when to run away, I know when to put stuff in storage. And I love being able to like have control of what's going through the gameplay. I would say this game is very linear, like extremely linear. It is very much so very narrative based. You walk down a hallway, you click the R3 button, not R3, R3, the stick, and it'll tell you where to go, and you just follow the path, and that's pretty much it. You should follow that path. That's all you have to do. Unless you want to explore, like I said, which you should.
It's very linear. Technically it is a linear game, but like I feel like, I don't know, for me, like I feel like the fact that you can just like backtrack at any point in time, like abandon your objective and backtrack still for the most part, like it kind of like makes it less linear, if that makes sense. Like for all intents and purposes, you're right, but it's like it's that sort of illusion of linearity isn't so much there. Or
it's linear and it's not linear. It's very linear if you just follow the path, but it's but there is you can't explore. It's not linear, like it's not Detroit Become Human linear. It's
no, but I mean, like if you're just specifically following the golden path, or like where the like little line on the ground points you to, then like you're not getting the most out of the game.
Sure, it's like a Resident Evil game.
You just do that.
It's like a Resident Evil game. You just go. You can explore and go back at any time, but for the most part, you're going straight.
Yeah.
This game has some of the highest quality environments I've ever seen in a game. It looks beautiful. It's probably the best I've seen since Callisto Protocol, which I beat 2 weeks ago as well. A few weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
But this game has much better gameplay though. That game, I did not like the gameplay in that game as much. I prefer shooting. I do prefer that the melee combat was very clunky, and Dead Space Remake. I much prefer using the guns. In these games.
I do get that. I get that. Yeah.
Because in Callisto Protocol, you get surrounded by like enemies, and the camera just says "fuck you" and you die.
Yeah, I think. I mean, like I already went on about it.
Yeah.
A couple months
I don't
ago,
want
but like, yeah, there's
about
ways
it,
to do it. Yeah, but
got
no,
it.
I will say apparently with Callisto they have updated the enemy AI so they do take their time, or like they'll stand back so you can focus on an enemy.
They do,
I'm
but
not
it's
sure.
still stupid though.
I'm not sure how I feel about that though, so I'll have to like replay it soon.
Do you know what
see
I've just
myself.
had a thought. It must absolutely suck being Glenn Schofield and hearing people trash to no end on your newest masterpiece, only to then like a month later hear everyone say constantly how great your first game was. Like, yeah, that must suck.
Like, as we said on the episode we talked about it, that Callisto Protocol is like has a really great foundation, but the decision to make it melee focus was just such a bad decision. The game was not built for that.
Inherently, I don't think melee combat is bad, but I think it's the way they did it is very inaccessible for a lot of people.
Well,
I think
I had a grasp of it. It's just the camera was not. It was clearly meant to be a Dead Space game, which Dead Space is mainly a third-person shooter because every weapon you get in the game is a gun or like a rocket launcher, not rocket launcher, a launcher, a machine gun, a pistol. It's a third-person shooter. Callisto Protocol has the same linear like hallways and platforms and stuff like that, and that they want you to melee combat and dodge and weave like it's Bloodborne. And it's like it's not meant to be that. So I don't know whose decision was to make it melee focused. That was such a bad decision on their end, in my opinion. And the critics agree. I mean, it got like the 60s or 70s.
Probably yeah.
So I'm not trashing the game because I liked Callisto Protocol, but it just wasn't on par with this Dead Space remake. This to me, this remake's a 9.5 out of 10, and Callisto Protocol is like a 7. Anyway, I love this game for the fact that, like I said, it's random and you're always on the edge of your seat. The enemies, the AI in this game is really tough. I love that you have to really know where to like find an angle and make sure you're not surrounded because the enemies will jump at you from the back. You can get easily surrounded in this game. I love that it tests you, like gameplay wise. What else? I love that there's no like clear like puzzles that like the puzzles are very simple. There's nothing that like here we go. It's that puzzle section. It takes like an hour to do. I feel like I never really stopped. I was always on a good pace in this game. I never felt like I'm stuck at this section for an hour or 2 hours. I had. This is why Dead Space Original, because it's the same game really, just better. It has the same reason why I love Resident Evil 4 so much is the pacing. Resident Evil 4 I think has perfect pacing. Even if it's a little longer, I never get bored with Resident Evil 4, and I never get bored with Dead Space, and I think that's where this game really, really shines. Is it never stops being fun because the pacing is just even like that. Even though this game has those typical third-person elements where like you have to stop and walk and wait for characters to talk to move on to progress. Like what happens, you'll get like a screen that pops up and the character talks to you, and you can't save or open the door until the person stops talking. Even those get a little annoying sometimes. That like it doesn't overstay its welcome, so it always moves forward. The best part of this game is the pacing and the, for me, the gameplay wise.
I do want to say as well that I think, like even though like the gameplay is basically identical, but two things. One, I think oddly enough, the movement and not even just in the zero gravity, like just the movement in general is so much cleaner and better.
Definitely.
I remember like in that first chase scene, I just kind of instinctively held the L1 button to start sprinting, and then the game said no, you have to click down on the trigger to start sprinting. I was like, oh shit. But yeah, it just, I don't know. He's just like, he glides around the environment, but in like a really good way that like, like he still feels weighty, but he's like, he has a lot of maneuverability. I do wish we had a quick turn, but like it's not the end of the world. It's not Callisto Protocol where that game desperately needed a quick turn. This game,
good thing about this game is he sprints pretty fast. Like if you click the button, it's pretty fluid.
Yeah,
like you can run out of a situation pretty well.
You can just dodge and weave out of
because you have
out
there's
of
boss
anything, really.
because there's boss battles where you do have to dodge and weave, and so it is fluid, very much.
And yeah, and I want to say like the addition of like the kinesis and being able to like properly throw things now, that's so good. Like I didn't even. It's been like what, a year and a half since I last played the original Dead Space, and like I didn't even realize that the game didn't have that, or at least to the same extent as in like Dead Space 2 and stuff. So then I just kind of naturally assumed, oh, it was in the game all along. But then I found out it wasn't. Like, oh, it just feels natural. At this stage. I do think as well that I do like how the story is much more free flowing, and like the pacing's a lot clearer because of it. Like I do have nostalgia for like the type of game design where it's like, okay, you have a self-contained level, then it's like you have a clear exit point and clear entry point.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now it feels 10 times more immersive to be able to.
It's like God of War, right? Like it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no loading screens. I love it. This game, like when let's say you turn the game off and you go back on, you click continue, and it just zooms out of the save, and you're back in the game. No loading screens or anything. It's so cool.
Exactly.
And that's what I love about God of War so much, is that like it just feels like you're in the world now, no loading screens, and you just get and the pacing's great. I guess the one criticism of this game, is the enemies, the same enemy over and over again. The designs are not exactly.
That's
unique, but it's not a big deal. But
I'm curious how you felt about Isaac being able to talk now, because I know he can talk. I know it's limited.
I love it.
I had no issue with that. I'm not a Dead Space purist. Oh, he should not talk. Blah, blah, blah. I know people are mad that he's middle-aged. He looks older.
He's supposed to look like his voice actor, right?
I thought he looked older in the original, if anything. I thought he looked younger here.
Really? I think he looked younger.
I mean, like maybe not necessarily younger, but it's like in the original he was very like sort of grizzled and such, kind of like how he was in the sequels. Whereas in this he kind of looks a lot more sort of clean cut, which makes sense considering the fact that like he's an engineer. He's not. He's essentially the Bob the Builder of the Dead Space universe, except instead of a hammer, he has like a fucking assault rifle and
he just looks a lot different. I think because in the original he has in the original game he just has like dark features, like darker hair, darker eyes.
Yeah.
This game looks completely different.
Yes.
What else can we say? So amazing visuals, amazing gameplay. I love that we're in the survival horror renaissance now. Again, it's been a long time. Even the Callisto Protocol was kind of disappointing. No offense. But I really hope we get a new Dead Space 2 or Dead Space 4. I hope the series gets to continue after this. This is a great start, great foundation. Everybody's digging it.
Yeah.
This game's probably gonna sell well, and I feel like this is I feel like people have learned what works like in survival horror, like the third person action.
Yeah.
I think Last of Us has set the tone for everybody now. Everybody knows what works and what doesn't work. So I'm really excited for the future of this genre and hopefully the future of Dead Space.
What I think should happen is that they should just like remaster or in some way port Dead Space 2 and 3 over like sort of modern consoles, similar to what they did for the Mass Effect trilogy. So then they can have those games, people can play those, and then they can jump right into 4. I feel like that would be the best route forward, because as you could definitely make the case for Dead Space 1, like that needed a remake because the remake added in voice acting, it added in a much more seamless world, had a lot more gameplay improvements, whereas 2 and 3 don't necessarily need that.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. They could still remake them, but they just the need isn't necessarily there as much as compared to the original.
Yeah,
So I
but
think, and I mean, what were we gonna say?
no, so I'd be fine with just this remake and that's it. I think it's okay just to have
I
a remake
would
of
be
one
too.
game.
I would be too, but like I think if we if Motive, especially after their Iron Man game, were to make another Dead Space, I'd rather them just sort of in whatever way they can, kind of just like at least bring the existing Dead Space 2 and 3s
Sure.
over to current gen, so then we can just go straight into Dead Space 4.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how big Motive is, but if they're working on an Iron Man game, then they're probably not going to work on another Dead Space game, I'd imagine,
Not for a while,
unless they have two
no.
teams or something. But I would rather they focus
Not for a
all on
while.
the Iron Man game. But Squadrons was solid. Dead Space Remake is fantastic. So so my expectations for the Iron Man game has just gone significantly up, because if Motive's been pretty quality, their games have looked high end. If there's one thing they do fantastically is the graphics.
100%. Do you know what I just remembered exists as well? That they announced that Captain America Black Panther game, like, however many months ago. I just remembered that existed. That there's nothing else to it. I just remembered that's a thing.
Oh yeah, the one that's like with the 4 characters.
Yeah, I think Amy Hennig was working on it, or she had some part.
Yeah.
Those games would be great.
Yeah,
linear Sony template games. I would love a Captain America Black Panther like Sony template game. I would kill for that.
I feel like that's what we're getting, especially since Amy Hennig's on it. I feel like that's just what we're getting.
That's what I wanted from Avengers. That's all I wanted. I didn't want some service bullshit game. I just wanted like a nice linear 12 to 15 hour game.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyway,
rest in peace.
Yeah, actually, no. I'm glad it's dead. So I really recommend it. EA games. If you wait, it'll be half the price, like in a month. So
yeah.
If you wait a year, it'll be on Game Pass, which is maybe what I'll do.
Yeah, or you can.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have EA Play, which I don't recommend, you can get it for like $62.
That's what I did. I spent $6 in order to save like 10, 15 bucks.
I got it for free, so I actually didn't buy it. My students gave me $75 in gift cards, and I just cashed it in so I got it for free. And extra $5 on top of that. Anyway, really recommend it. I really recommend it. If you like survival horror, this is a survival horror game. It is an action game, but it is a survival horror game first and foremost. So this game does test you on your ability to conserve ammo, know when to run, saving, inventory management, all that junk, everything part of that genre. This is like Resident Evil 2 remake. It's not Resident Evil 4. It is more like Resident Evil 4 remake in the original, as in like if you kill an enemy, they always drop something, right? They always drop ammo. But you can easily run out of ammo in this game and run out of health in this game.
Yeah.
Or Resident Evil 4, I never felt like that. Yeah, like I just love that we're in this renaissance to survival horror. Like this is a great run. Hopefully Resident Evil 4 remake lives up to it as well, and hopefully they keep. I would love remakes of all these horror games. Give me some Clock Tower, give me some Haunting Ground, give me some anything. Silent Hill. We got Silent Hill 2. Hopefully that's great, and then hopefully we get Silent Hill 3 remake or something like that. I'll take a new Silent Hill. I don't care. I just love that this genre is doing really well. All right. Well, that's everything on the list.
Yeah.
So in 2 weeks I'm gonna talk about Hogwarts Legacy, and then we'll see what news comes out then. And then after that, we'll be talking about Resident Evil 4 remake and PSVR 2 and Atomic Heart. So we're gonna have a loaded show on that in the March episode.
We also have Like a Dragon Ishin.
Like a Dragon
should be up by then as well.
Yeah. So
that's coming out soon.
So February is obviously is gonna be Hogwarts dominated in the first 2 weeks because nothing's really around it, and then late February gets insanely stacked.
Yes, I am so glad Fallen Survivor got delayed, because that means I have more time for Resident Evil 4 and other games around it.
Exactly.
And Destiny 2.
Yep, I agree.
Destiny 2 Lightfall. I forgot that was a thing. Yeah.
It was a cool. It was a smart idea by Sony to put one of the expansions of Destiny 2 on Plus for this.
Yes. Extremely.
Because you can actually get like the second class, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, an additional class for it, and we need to play the Evil Dead at some point. I need to.
Yes.
I will be your Gandalf as an semi-experienced player.
It's
of
Mitch
game.
the
I will
Gray.
be your Gandalf.
Also, Back 4 Blood is on PlayStation Extra, PS Extra, so you don't have to.
Yes, and
So Dory, if you
just
do get that
announced
service, you don't have to use Game Pass anymore. I know it could be a pain in
that'd
the
be
ass.
nice.
You can join us, and soon enough, when they integrate Discord into PlayStation, we don't even have to use our computers.
That's right. We'll just be doing the podcast on PS5, baby.
That's it.
Jim Ryan, sponsor us now.
All right, Dory, where can we find you?
I'm on Twitch and Twitter at dford192. My YouTube, same name. You can find highlights of games I've been playing. Haven't been doing anything recently because of school and work, but hope to stream soon.
Hey, Mitch, where can we find you?
You can find me in Australia. Here's my address, actually.
Down
it's,
Whoa.
Whoa, was that Mitch's social security
on...
number? That's not even a thing in Australia, is it?
No, it is not. You can find me on Twitter at mitchup1012.
You having a nice summer down there?
I fucking hate it. It was like 2 days ago. It was only like 28 degrees Celsius or whatever that is in Fahrenheit, and I had like an air cooler pointed full blast at me, and in my room it still felt like a sauna. Like it said
82,
it was
82 degrees.
Yeah, it said it was like 26 degrees or like 82 Fahrenheit or whatever. It felt like so much more than that. It was terrible.
I live in South Florida, so you get no sympathy from me.
It was literally you get no sympathy from me either. But literally, we were in the negatives like today and yesterday. I think it's right now it's like 14 degrees Fahrenheit, and it feels like I don't know 0 or something right now. -5.
Not to go on a tangent, but the funny thing is, like, when Florida gets like 40-degree weather, like it's mass panic. Like things fall out, iguanas fall out of the trees. The news panics. Everything, fields die. Like it's like Last of Us when it's 40 degrees. So if it was 14, I think.
By the way, I know you were saying they should franchise Last of Us. My first thought was like we should do another Wii Fit with Abby. That's the franchise move right there.
Just play Wii Sports for golf.
Did anyone see that? Did anyone see that the model for Abby went to like the beach in Santa Barbara where like the post game main menu is for part 2 is? Did anyone see that?
No, I didn't see that.
So she went to like that exact beach and basically recreated like the ending shot of the menu, and then she like did like the pointing meme where she's like. Like has the cast and like pointing at the big tower in the background. It was fantastic.
That's great.
All right, James, where can we find you? You still use Twitter? You still use Twitter?
I still use. I haven't posted anything in a while, but you can find me at Untitled Smithy on Twitter, and my social security number is 5.
Yeah.
Cool. You can find me at Little 793. I'm almost at 3,000 followers now. Finally.
Quit bragging.
I've been stuck there forever. Anyway, thank you for watching. Once again, you can watch this on Spotify and YouTube. Last episode was our most watched episode, so hopefully this one can live up to that. But that's
gotta break the numbers.
That's the power of The Last of Us. So.
No, Mitch is back now. So
Mitch is back. So
unfortunately, I was just gonna say I'm gonna prove you guys wrong that the last episode did well because of my lack of presence.
I mean, in all seriousness, it's because of the fucking algorithm. Because we were talking about The Last of Us.
Yeah. Front and center. I put it in the title. Yeah. Anyway, you all.
Hopefully, Dead Space can carry us through.
That's right.
You all have a good night. Peace.
And the last 4 digits of my social is.